The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of light and darkness. But what happens when something arrives that operates outside that ancient balance? A being of metal and spark, whose very existence defies the rules of life as the galaxy understands it. The sky above Yavin 4 split open without warning. No hyperspace signature. No ship emerged from the swirling blue tunnel of lightspeed. Instead, reality itself tore apart in a screaming vortex of crimson and violet energy, a wound in space that shouldn't exist. The rebel sentries stationed in the jungle canopy shielded their eyes as arcs of impossible lightning cascaded downward, illuminating the massive temples left behind by the ancient Masasi. Then something fell. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't a ship. It was a colossus, 30 feet of alien metal tumbling through the atmosphere, trailing fire and sparking energy. The impact shook the moon's surface, sending a shockwave through the jungle that toppled trees and scattered wildlife for kilometers. Smoke rose in a black pillar toward the twin moons hanging in the twilight sky. Lieutenant Bren Durlin was the first to reach the crater. His hand trembled on his blaster as he stood at the edge of the smoking pit, staring down at what lay below. The thing was massive, larger than any droid he'd ever seen, constructed from metals that gleamed even beneath layers of scorch marks and battle damage. Its form was vaguely humanoid but alien in every proportion. Broad shoulders, a chest that looked like it could house a small transport's reactor, arms ending in articulated hands that could crush a speeder bike. But it was the face that made Durlin's breath catch. Not a photoreceptor array like a battle droid. Not the cold mask of an Imperial machine. This thing had eyes, glowing blue optics that flickered weakly behind a faceplate that resembled a helmet. And as Durlin watched, those eyes opened. The metal giant moved. Servos whined as it pushed itself to its hands and knees, head hanging low. When it spoke, its voice was deep, resonant, and impossibly weary. "Where am I?" Durlin's finger tightened on his blaster trigger. "Identify yourself. You're in rebel territory." The giant's head lifted, and those blue optics focused on him with an intensity that made the lieutenant take an involuntary step backward. But there was no aggression in that gaze. Only confusion, and something that looked disturbingly like compassion. "I mean you no harm," the metal being said, slowly rising to its full height. Durlin had to crane his neck back to maintain eye contact. "My name is Optimus Prime. I am not from this galaxy. There was a battle. A space bridge malfunction. And now..." The giant called Optimus Prime looked up at the unfamiliar stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. His shoulders sagged slightly, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of someone who had been separated from everything he knew. "Now I am very far from home." Within an hour, Yavin 4's base was on high alert. General John Dodonna stood in the command center, watching live feeds from a dozen surveillance drones circling the crash site. The metal giant hadn't moved from the crater, hadn't shown any hostility toward the armed soldiers who'd surrounded him. He simply stood there, waiting, as if he understood that sudden movements would be unwise. "It's not Imperial," Captain Antilles said, studying the tactical readouts. "The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases. No Republic or Separatist records match this design. And those energy signatures?" He shook his head. "Whatever powers that thing, it's not standard reactor technology." "Could it be a Sith creation?" someone asked. "Some ancient weapon?" "No." The voice came from the doorway, and everyone turned to see Princess Leia Organa entering the command center, her expression thoughtful. "I've studied Sith history. They built monsters, yes, but nothing like this. This is something else entirely." Mon Mothma appeared behind Leia, her presence commanding immediate attention. The leader of the Rebel Alliance moved to the center view screen, studying the image of Optimus Prime with the calculating gaze of someone who had learned to see threats and opportunities in equal measure. "He claims to be from another galaxy," Mon Mothma said quietly, "displaced by some kind of accident. His words were recorded by the scouts. He asked where he was. He apologized for the damage caused by his arrival. He offered to submit to our authority until we could verify his intentions." She turned to face her officers. "Does that sound like a weapon to you?" "It sounds like a trap," Dodonna countered. The Empire has grown creative in their attempts to infiltrate our bases. Then let's find out. Leia stepped forward. I'll go talk to him. Princess, if he wanted to attack us, General, he could have done so already. That thing is armed. Sensors detected weapon systems integrated into his frame. Yet he's been standing in that crater for an hour, waiting patiently for us to make the first move. Leia's expression softened slightly. Maybe it's time we extended the same courtesy. The jungle had grown dark by the time Leia approached the crater, flanked by a full security detail. Portable lights had been set up around the perimeter, casting harsh shadows across Optimus Prime's form. Up close, he was even more impressive, and more damaged. Deep gouges scarred his armor. Blast marks indicated recent combat. One shoulder showed signs of repair work, crude welding that spoke of battlefield maintenance. But it was his eyes that struck Leia most forcefully. They held an intelligence that was undeniable. And something else, a profound sadness that she recognized. She'd seen it in the mirror after Alderaan's destruction. The look of someone who had lost too much. Optimus Prime, she said, keeping her voice steady and diplomatic. I am Princess Leia Organa of Alderaan, representative of the Rebel Alliance. You've crashed on one of our bases. Before we can proceed, I need to understand what you are and why you're here. The giant slowly knelt, bringing his face closer to her level. The gesture was clearly meant to be non-threatening, but several soldiers raised their blasters anyway. Optimus didn't seem to notice, or care. I am a Cybertronian, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the humid jungle air. An autonomous robotic organism from the planet Cybertron. For millions of years, my people have been locked in civil war. Autobots fighting for freedom against Decepticons who would enslave the galaxy. I lead the Autobots. He paused, and something like pain crossed his features. Or I did, before the space bridge tore me away from them. Millions of years? Leia couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. My kind do not age as you do, Princess. We are born from the All-Spark, given life and spark and consciousness. We can be destroyed, but we do not wither with time. His optics dimmed slightly. Though sometimes I wonder if that is a blessing or a curse. Leia studied him for a long moment. Everything about this situation defied logic, yet her instincts, honed through years of diplomatic training and rebellion, told her he was speaking truth. There was no deception in his voice, no hidden agenda in his words. You said your people fight for freedom, she said carefully, against an enemy that would enslave others. Yes. Then perhaps we have something in common. Leia glanced back at her security detail, then made a decision that would change the course of the Galactic Civil War. Optimus Prime, the Rebel Alliance fights against the Galactic Empire, a tyrannical regime that has enslaved countless worlds and extinguished freedom wherever it spreads. If your words are true, if you truly stand for liberty. She met his gaze directly. Then maybe you've crashed in exactly the right place. For the first time since arriving in this strange galaxy, Optimus Prime felt something stir in his spark. Not quite hope, not yet, but purpose. A familiar sensation, like coming home after a long absence. Till all are one, Princess Organa, he said softly. It is what we say among my kind, a reminder that freedom is the right of all sentient beings, regardless of their origin. He straightened to his full height, and his voice grew stronger. If you fight for freedom, then I will stand with you. This I swear on the matrix of leadership that resides within my chest. Leia didn't understand the reference, but she recognized an oath when she heard one. She extended her hand upward, knowing he couldn't shake it but making the gesture anyway. Then welcome to the rebellion, Optimus Prime. We could use someone who knows how to fight impossible wars. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The Rebel Alliance Command Council convened at dawn in the Great Temple's war room. Holographic projections of fleet commanders and cell leaders flickered to life around the circular table as Mon Mothma called the emergency session to order. The topic: What to do with a 30-foot metal alien who claimed to be a freedom fighter from another galaxy? Absolutely not. Admiral Akbar's voice carried the weight of caution earned through decades of military service. We know nothing about this, Cybertronian's capabilities or true intentions. Allowing him access to our operations would be a catastrophic security breach. He's already seen our base, Captain Antilles pointed out. If he intended to betray us to the Empire, the damage is done. Which is precisely why we should relocate immediately, Akbar countered. Assume compromise and act accordingly. Leia leaned forward. I spoke with him for over an hour last night. He answered every question honestly, without hesitation. He explained his technology, his people's history, even his own doubts about whether he can ever return home. She looked around the table. That's not how spies behave. It's exactly how good spies behave, General Dodonna said, though his tone was less hostile than contemplative. However, I agree with the princess. There's something about this Prime that rings true. Call it instinct. Mon Mothma had remained silent throughout the debate, her fingers steepled beneath her chin as she considered the arguments. When she finally spoke, every voice in the room fell silent. We are desperate, she said simply. Let's not pretend otherwise. The Death Star's destruction was a miracle, but it hasn't crippled the Empire. They still outnumber us 100 to 1. They control the shipyards, the trade routes, the majority of populated systems. We survive through hit-and-run tactics, small victories that barely slow their advance. She gestured toward the viewport, where through the trees, Optimus Prime could be seen standing near the crater, carefully examining something in his massive hands. And now the Force, or fate, or random chance, has dropped a warrior into our midst who claims to have fought for millions of years. A sentient machine who cannot be bribed, seduced, or intimidated, who has faced extinction-level threats and survived. You're suggesting we trust him completely? Akbar's voice held disbelief. I'm suggesting we give him a chance to prove himself, Mon Mothma replied. Limited access, supervised operations. If he's genuine, we gain an asset unlike anything the Empire has encountered. If he's a threat, she looked to Dodonna, then our best soldiers will be watching him closely enough to respond. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Optimus Prime would be granted provisional ally status, with restrictions on his movement and information access. Leia volunteered to serve as his primary contact, a role that surprised no one who knew the princess's tendency to trust her instincts. When Leia found Optimus later that morning, he was holding what looked like a small crystalline fragment, no larger than a human thumb. His massive fingers handled it with surprising delicacy, turning it to catch the sunlight filtering through the jungle canopy. What is that? Leia asked. Optimus's optics flickered, and she realized he'd been so focused he hadn't noticed her approach. A piece of my home, he said quietly. When the space bridge exploded, fragments of Cybertronian crystal were embedded in my armor. This is the last piece I could extract without damaging critical systems. He held it up to the light, and Leia saw rainbow patterns dance through its structure. Energon, the lifeblood of my people, and I'm running out. What happens when you run out? I shut down, permanently. His voice held no fear, only acceptance of an uncomfortable truth. This galaxy has no Energon deposits that I can detect. I've been scanning since I arrived. Nothing. Without it, I have perhaps 2 of your weeks before my systems begin failing. Leia felt cold dread settle in her stomach. Why didn't you mention this last night? Because it's my problem to solve, not yours. Optimus carefully stored the Energon fragment in a compartment in his arm. You have enough burdens. I won't add to them. That's not how alliances work, Leia said sharply. If we're going to trust you, you need to trust us. Our scientists, our engineers, maybe they can help. But only if you're honest with us. Optimus looked at her for a long moment, and Leia saw something shift behind his optics. You remind me of Alita 1, he said softly. She is an Autobot commander. Strong, principled, unwilling to let others shoulder burdens alone. His voice grew distant. I wonder if she still functions, if she's searching for me. If the war continues without me, or if the Decepticons have finally won. Tell me about your war, Leia said, sitting on a fallen log. If we're going to work together, I should understand what you've been fighting for. And so Optimus told her about Cybertron's golden age before the war, when Transformers lived in peace, about Megatron's rise and the philosophical split that shattered their civilization, about the matrix of leadership passed down through Autobot leaders, a mystical artifact that carried the wisdom of all who had borne it, about planets caught in the crossfire, innocent species enslaved or exterminated, and the terrible calculus of war that forced good beings to make monstrous choices. Leia listened with growing recognition. Every detail echoed her own struggle. The Empire's rise from the Republic's ashes, the moral compromises rebellion demanded, the weight of leadership when failure meant extinction for those you protected. How do you keep fighting? She asked when he finished. After millions of years, how do you maintain hope? Because the alternative is surrender, Optimus replied. And surrender means death for everyone who depends on you. So you fight, you adapt, you find allies in unexpected places. His optics met hers. And you remember that freedom is always worth the cost. Before Leia could respond, her comlink chirped urgently. Captain Antilles' voice crackled through, tense and clipped. Princess, we have incoming Imperial probe droids. 3 signatures approaching from the northern quadrant. They're scanning the jungle. Leia was on her feet instantly. How long until they reach the base? 20 minutes at current speed. Optimus rose to his full height, and Leia heard servos engaging throughout his frame. Your enemy knows something crashed here, he said. They're investigating. Then we need to take those probes out before they transmit our location to the fleet. Leia started toward the base, then paused, looking back at Optimus. Can you fight? Princess, I was designed for war. His right arm transformed with a series of mechanical clicks and whirs, components sliding and reconfiguring until a massive ion blaster had replaced his hand. The weapon hummed with power, and Leia realized that despite his depleted energy reserves, Optimus Prime was still very much a warrior. Point me toward your enemy. The northern jungle perimeter became a staging ground in minutes. Rebel soldiers established firing positions while technicians scrambled to calibrate anti-air batteries. Lieutenant Durlin coordinated the defense, his voice steady despite the obvious tension. Sensors show the probes are spreading out, he reported as Leia and Optimus arrived. Smart tactics. They're trying to scan a wider area. If even one transmits back to Imperial Command, it won't, Optimus said. He studied the tactical display, and Leia saw his optics tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. 3 targets, scattered formation. Your people are positioned for crossfire, but the probes will detect your energy signatures before you can achieve target lock. He looked at Durlin. How accurate are your anti-air batteries? Against probe droids? Maybe 60% hit rate. Not good enough. Optimus's ion blaster reconfigured slightly, components adjusting. I can track faster than your targeting computers. Grant me firing authorization, and I'll eliminate all 3 before they can transmit. Durlin glanced at Leia, uncertainty clear on his face. This was exactly the situation Mon Mothma had warned about, giving the unknown alien access to their defensive systems, trusting him with their survival. Leia made the call. Do it. Optimus Prime stepped forward into the clearing, and for the first time, Leia saw him move with purpose. Every motion was economical, precise, the grace of a warrior who had fought for eons. He planted his feet, stabilizing actuators engaging with the ground. His free hand touched the side of his head, and his optics brightened as he accessed enhanced targeting protocols. Probe 1, bearing 327, altitude 200 meters, he said, his voice now cold and focused. Probe 2, bearing 015, altitude 180. Probe 3, bearing 270, altitude 225. His ion blaster tracked smoothly, and Leia saw energy building in the weapon's chamber. Engaging. The first shot split the jungle air with a sound like thunder compressed into a single note. In the distance, an explosion bloomed orange against the green canopy. Optimus's weapon swiveled with impossible speed, and the second shot followed 3 seconds later. Another explosion. The third probe, detecting its companion's destruction, attempted to climb and transmit. Optimus's optics narrowed, calculations running behind his gaze. His ion blaster elevated, leading the target, compensating for wind and the probe's erratic evasion pattern. The final shot was perfect. The probe disintegrated in mid-air, fragments raining down harmlessly into the jungle. "Threats eliminated," Optimus said, his weapon reconfiguring back into a hand. No transmissions detected. The clearing was absolutely silent. Every rebel soldier stared at the towering metal warrior who had just eliminated 3 Imperial probe droids with the casual efficiency of someone swatting insects. Durlin was the first to speak. How did you track them so precisely?" "Cybertronian optics can process multiple visual spectrums simultaneously," Optimus explained, his tone returning to its gentler cadence. "Your probe droids emit electromagnetic signatures that I can see as clearly as you see color, combined with predictive targeting algorithms refined over millions of years of combat." He looked at the stunned rebels. It was not difficult. Leia felt a smile tugging at her lips despite the situation. "I think, Optimus Prime, the rebellion just found its new heavy weapons specialist." "If you'll have me," Optimus replied. "Though I must warn you, I have perhaps 2 weeks before my energon reserves fail completely. After that," he left the sentence unfinished, but the implication was clear. "Then, we have 2 weeks to figure out how to keep you running," Leia said firmly. "Because something tells me we're going to need you." In the war room, Admiral Akbar reviewed the sensor logs from the engagement. 3 probe droids destroyed in under 30 seconds with perfect accuracy. The tactical implications were staggering. "Inform Mon Mothma," he said quietly to his aide. "Tell her we may have just recruited the most dangerous weapon the rebellion has ever possessed, and pray to the Force that he truly fights for our side." The celebration of survival was short-lived. Within hours of destroying the probe droids, rebel intelligence intercepted Imperial communications that made everyone's blood run cold. The probe network had been deployed systematically across Yavin 4's sector, and while the 3 near the base had been eliminated, others had detected the anomalous energy signature from Optimus Prime's arrival. An Imperial investigation fleet was already en route. "Estimated arrival? 72 hours, General Dodonna announced grimly. 3 Star Destroyers, full fighter complement, with orders to investigate and secure any unknown technology." He didn't need to specify what secure meant in Imperial parlance. Orbital bombardment followed by ground occupation. Mon Mothma looked exhausted. "Recommendations?" "Evacuation," Akbar said immediately. "We relocate the fleet, abandon Yavin 4 before they arrive. Standard protocol when a base is compromised." "We're not ready," Captain Antilles protested. "Half our ships are still undergoing repairs from the Death Star assault. The medical frigate has 50 wounded who can't be safely moved. We need at least a week, which we don't have," Akbar interrupted. 72 hours is barely enough time to evacuate personnel, let alone equipment. We'll have to abandon significant materiel." Leia had been quiet throughout the debate, but now she spoke up. "There's another option. We defend." The room fell silent. Several officers looked at her as if she'd suggested surrendering directly to Darth Vader. "Princess," Dodonna said carefully, 3 Star Destroyers carry enough firepower to reduce this moon to slag. Our defensive batteries are designed for light cruisers and fighter screens, not capital ships. A direct engagement would be suicide." "I'm not suggesting we fight them in space," Leia said. "I'm suggesting we make it too costly for them to commit to a full assault. Make them think twice about landing ground forces. Buy ourselves the time we need to complete evacuations properly." She looked toward the viewport, where Optimus Prime could be seen standing near the temple, his form silhouetted against the setting sun. "And I think our new ally might give us the edge we need." The plan was desperate, but desperation had become the rebellion's constant companion. Over the next 2 days, every available hand worked to fortify the base perimeter. Anti-air batteries were reinforced and repositioned. Trenches were dug through the jungle. Proton torpedo launchers salvaged from damaged Y-wings were jury-rigged into fixed emplacements, and Optimus Prime became the center of frantic attention. Chief Engineer Torin Farr approached him with a mixture of professional curiosity and barely concealed anxiety. The princess said you need energy to survive, and we're running out of time to find alternatives to this energon substance. I've brought our best technical minds. We need to understand your power systems. Optimus knelt in the temple's hangar bay, which was the only space large enough to accommodate him comfortably. Around him, a dozen rebel engineers and mechanics had assembled with scanning equipment, datapads, and expressions ranging from excitement to terror. I will provide whatever information you require, Optimus said, his voice patient despite the urgency. Though I warn you, Cybertronian technology operates on principles that may not translate to your scientific understanding. Try us, Torrin said with more confidence than she felt. What followed was 6 hours of the most intense technical exchange Rebel Alliance engineers had ever experienced. Optimus opened access panels in his chassis, revealing systems that defied conventional understanding. His power core, what he called a spark chamber, operated on principles that seemed to blur the line between technology and something else entirely. Energy didn't just flow through his systems, it animated them, gave them purpose and consciousness. The spark is life itself, Optimus explained as scanners struggled to analyze the pulsing blue energy at his core. Not merely a power source, but the essence of what makes me, me. Without energon to sustain it, the spark will eventually extinguish, and I will cease to be. A young Celestin engineer named Nian Nunb examined the readouts, his large eyes growing wider. He gestured urgently, speaking rapidly in his native language. Torrin's face lit up. Nunb says your spark emits a resonance pattern similar to kyber crystals. Not identical, but analogous. She looked at Optimus with sudden hope. Kyber crystals are what power lightsabers, Jedi weapons. They're attuned to the Force, capable of generating and focusing enormous energy. If we could adapt kyber crystal power cells to your systems... The Force? Optimus's optics brightened with interest. I've heard that term several times since arriving. What is it? Torrin hesitated. It's complicated. An energy field that binds the galaxy together. The Jedi Order used it, though most of them are gone now, killed by the Empire. It's connected to all living things, gives certain individuals extraordinary abilities. She noticed his intense focus. You don't have anything like it in your galaxy? The matrix of leadership carries the wisdom and power of ancient primes, Optimus said slowly. It chooses worthy bearers, guides them, sometimes grants visions, but I always believed it to be Cybertronian technology, however mystical. He placed a hand over his chest, where Torrin's scanners detected a distinct energy signature separate from his spark chamber. Now, I wonder if it's something more. Can we see it? Torrin asked. If the Matrix and Kyber crystals operate on similar principles, Optimus's chest plates began to shift, components sliding apart with mechanical precision. Light spilled out, pure, blue-white radiance that made every engineer shield their eyes. When they adjusted, they saw it. A crystalline matrix of impossible complexity, geometric patterns that seemed to extend into dimensions the eye couldn't quite process. It pulsed with life, with purpose, with something that felt almost aware. By the Force, Torrin whispered. It's beautiful. It's also warning me, Optimus said, his voice tight. The Matrix has been agitated since I arrived in your galaxy, as if it senses something familiar yet foreign. When you mentioned the Force, the sensation intensified. His chest plates closed, sealing the Matrix away again. I believe they may be connected somehow. Different expressions of the same fundamental truth. Nian Nunb gestured excitedly again, and Torrin nodded. We have a small supply of kyber crystals, fragments recovered from destroyed Jedi temples mostly. If we can configure them to interface with your systems, they might sustain your spark long enough for us to find a permanent solution. How long would the modifications take? Working round the clock? Maybe 40 hours? Torrin checked her chronometer. Which gives us 8 hours before the Imperial fleet arrives to field test the results. Then we'd better not waste time, Optimus said. What do you need me to do? The modifications were delicate work, made more challenging by the fact that Cybertronian technology actively resisted external tampering, a security measure against Decepticon sabotage. Optimus had to consciously override his own defensive protocols, trusting these organic beings to literally reach into his chest and alter his power systems. Leia visited the hangar during the 36th hour, finding Optimus in what the engineers assured her was minimal discomfort, which translated to having his entire torso opened like a mechanical dissection, with sparking tools and welding torches working on systems that made R2 units look primitive by comparison. "How are you holding up?" she asked, careful to stay clear of the work area. "I've endured worse in battle," Optimus replied, though his voice carried an underlying strain. "The engineers are skilled. I'm impressed by their ability to adapt to completely alien technology. They're motivated. Everyone is." Leia watched Torin Farr carefully install a kyber crystal housing into Optimus's power distribution network. "You've become something of a legend on the base, the metal giant who fights for freedom. Morale has improved dramatically since you arrived." "I hope I can live up to their faith," Optimus said quietly. "I've fought so many battles, Princess. Won some, lost others. But I've never fought knowing that if I fall, I cannot be repaired. That this might truly be my last war." He was silent for a moment. "It's liberating in a way, and terrifying." "Welcome to the rebellion," Leia said with a slight smile. "We live with that terror every day." The modifications were completed with 6 hours to spare. When Torin activated the new power systems, every sensor in the hangar spiked dangerously. Optimus's frame convulsed, energy surging through circuits that had never felt anything but energon. For a terrible moment, the engineers thought they'd killed him. Then his optics blazed to life, brighter than before, burning with intensity that made everyone step back. Optimus rose to his feet, and the ground shook with each movement. He looked at his hands, flexed his fingers, feeling power flow through systems that had been dangerously depleted. "I can feel it," he said, wonder in his voice. "The kyber crystals. They're resonating with the Matrix. It's not energon, but it's sustaining me. More than that, it's enhancing my systems. I feel stronger than I have since arriving." "How much stronger?" Dodonna asked. He'd arrived to oversee the final tests, military pragmatism overriding any wonder at the technical achievement. Optimus's ion blaster reconfigured from his arm, and this time the energy buildup was visibly more intense. "Substantially. The kyber energy channels more efficiently than energon through my weapon systems. I estimate a 30% increase in offensive capability." He deactivated the weapon. "Though I don't know how long this will last. The crystals may degrade under sustained use." "Then we'll have to make every shot count," Dodonna said, "because the Imperial fleet just entered the system. They'll be in orbital position within 2 hours." The jungle had never seemed so vast and yet so small. Optimus stood at the temple's highest accessible point, his optics tracking the night sky where, soon, Star Destroyers would blot out the stars. Around him, the Rebel Alliance prepared for a battle they had virtually no chance of winning. But they prepared anyway, because that was what freedom fighters did. They stood their ground even when logic demanded retreat. They fought impossible odds because the alternative was accepting tyranny. Optimus understood that philosophy intimately. He'd lived it for millions of years. "Till all are one," he whispered to the stars, a prayer to Primus that somehow, across dimensional barriers and galactic distances, his Autobots still fought on, that they hadn't given up hope. And then he turned his attention to the coming battle, because hope was something you earned through action, not prayer. The Star Destroyers emerged from hyperspace like daggers of steel, their wedge shapes silhouetted against Yavin's gas giant. 3 Imperial-class vessels, each carrying enough firepower to subjugate a planet. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, Captain Kendall Royce reviewed the sensor data with growing irritation. "Confirm. The energy signature originated from this moon?" "Yes, Captain. Preliminary scans detect significant rebel presence. Base structures, defensive installations, multiple spacecraft, and..." The sensor officer hesitated. "An anomalous metallic structure, large scale, unknown configuration." Royce smiled coldly. "So, the rebels found something, did they?" and they think they can keep it from the Empire. He turned to his tactical officer. Launch TIE fighter screens. Deploy ground assault transports. I want that base secured and that anomaly captured intact. The Emperor will be most pleased with this discovery. As the first TIE fighters launched from the Star Destroyer hangars, screaming toward Yavin 4's atmosphere, Optimus Prime activated his targeting systems and prepared to show the Galactic Empire why the Decepticons had never managed to conquer Cybertron. Some wars, he had learned, could only be won by those who refused to surrender. And surrender was not in an Autobot's vocabulary. The first wave of TIE fighters entered Yavin 4's atmosphere like a swarm of shrieking insects, their twin ion engines creating a distinctive howl that echoed across the jungle. 48 fighters in tight formations, configured for ground attack with concussion missiles loaded and laser cannons primed. Their mission was simple: suppress defensive installations and prepare landing zones for the ground assault. They didn't know about Optimus Prime. Contacts incoming, multiple vectors. Lieutenant Derlin's voice cracked across all defensive channels. All batteries, weapons free, make every shot count. The rebel anti-air batteries opened up, spitting streams of laser fire into the darkening sky. TIE fighters broke formation, executing evasive maneuvers with the skill expected of Imperial pilots. Several exploded in fireballs, but most continued their attack runs, diving toward the temple complex with deadly intent. Optimus stood at the temple's base, his form dwarfed by the ancient Massassi architecture, but dominating the defensive line. His ion blaster tracked smoothly, and his targeting computers, enhanced by Kyber crystal energy, processed threat assessments with brutal efficiency. Engaging, he said calmly, and opened fire. The ion blaster's report was different now, deeper and more resonant. The first bolt caught a TIE fighter mid-dive, and instead of simply destroying it, the Kyber-enhanced energy overloaded every system simultaneously. The fighter didn't explode, it disintegrated, components flying apart as if the ship had been unmade at a molecular level. Optimus didn't pause to admire the effect. His weapon swiveled, tracking, firing in a rhythm that spoke of eons of combat experience. Each shot was placed with surgical precision, not at the fighters themselves, but at the exact point in their trajectory where they would be 3 seconds later. Lead the target, compensate for velocity and atmospheric drag, fire. Another TIE fighter vanished in a cascade of sparks, then another. The TIE fighter pilots realized too late that they were facing something unprecedented. Their training had prepared them for anti-air batteries, starfighter opposition, even surface-to-air missiles. But nothing in Imperial tactical doctrine covered a 30-foot sentient robot with targeting systems that could track individual fighters through atmospheric turbulence, while compensating for wind shear and predictive evasion patterns. "What is that thing?" Squadron Leader Vlen transmitted urgently. "All fighters, break formation. Evasive pattern Delta." Optimus's next shot caught Vlen's TIE fighter in the cockpit viewport. The pilot had no time to scream. The remaining TIE fighters scattered, abandoning their coordinated attack runs for desperate survival maneuvers. But Optimus had fought Decepticon seekers who could transform mid-flight, who had millennia of aerial combat programming. These Imperial pilots, skilled as they were, moved in patterns he'd seen a million times before. His ion blaster reconfigured mid-combat, components shifting to accommodate rapid-fire mode. The rate of fire tripled, and the sky became a lattice of deadly energy bolts. TIE fighters exploded in clusters, their formations shredded by a single defender who treated atmospheric combat like an art form he'd perfected across galactic distances. Within 4 minutes, 32 of the 48 fighters were burning wreckage scattered across the jungle. The survivors broke off their attack, climbing desperately toward the safety of orbital altitude. On the lead Star Destroyer's bridge, Captain Royce stared at the tactical display with dawning horror. One target, one defending unit eliminated 2/3 of our fighter screen. He turned to his sensor officer. "What exactly are we dealing with?" "Unknown, Captain. The target's energy signature is wrong. It's not matching any known Republic, Separatist, or even Sith technology. And the way it moves?" The officer's voice wavered. "It's tracking our fighters with precision that exceeds our best targeting computers." Royce's jaw tightened. Reporting catastrophic losses to a ground-based defender would be humiliating. But the Emperor had sent him to secure whatever crashed on this moon, and Royce didn't achieve his rank by being cautious. "Deploy all remaining TIE squadrons," he ordered, "and launch the AT-AT walkers. I want overwhelming force on that base immediately. Bombardment from orbit is authorized. Avoid the anomaly target, but level everything else." The sensor officer looked up sharply. "Captain, orbital bombardment will destroy the rebel base entirely. If they have intelligence, prisoners, supplies, then they should have surrendered when they had the chance," Royce snapped. "Fire." The Star Destroyer's turbolaser batteries swiveled, locking onto coordinates across Yavin 4's surface, and then the jungle exploded. Emerald energy bolts the size of transit speeders hammered down from orbit, each one carrying enough destructive force to vaporize buildings. The ancient Massassi temples had survived millennia, but Imperial engineering had no respect for archaeology. Stone walls that had stood since before the Republic's founding cracked and crumbled under the assault. "Shields at maximum!" Dodonna roared over the command channel as the temple shook violently. "Get those fighters airborne! We need to draw their fire away from the base!" X-Wings and Y-Wings launched from hastily cleared runways, screaming into atmosphere thick with smoke and burning debris. They faced impossible odds, 3 Star Destroyers versus maybe 24 functional starfighters, but they went anyway, because that was what rebels did. Optimus watched the orbital bombardment with something approaching rage building in his spark chamber. He'd seen this before. Overwhelming military force deployed against outgunned defenders, tyranny's favorite tactic when facing those who dared resist. The Decepticons had done it on 100 worlds. Now the Empire was doing it here. "I need to reach those Star Destroyers," he transmitted to Leia, who was coordinating the defense from the command center. "On the ground, I can only defend. In orbit, I can strike back." "You can't breathe in vacuum," Leia shouted back over the sound of another explosion. "And you don't have a ship. I am a ship, Princess." Optimus's systems were already running calculations, determining trajectories and fuel consumption. "Cybertronians can survive hard vacuum for limited periods, and my thruster systems, enhanced by kyber energy." He paused as realization struck. "I can reach low orbit if I achieve sufficient velocity during atmospheric ascent." "That's insane." "That's necessary," Optimus interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "Your fighters are being slaughtered up there. Your base is being reduced to rubble, and those Star Destroyers will continue bombardment until nothing remains." His optics met hers through the command center's viewport. "I didn't survive millions of years of war to watch freedom fighters die because I played it safe." Another turbolaser barrage struck near the command center, close enough that the shockwave knocked several officers off their feet. Leia steadied herself against the tactical console, dirt raining from cracks in the ceiling. "Do it," she said. "And Optimus, come back alive." "I'll do my best." Optimus Prime ran, not away from the battle, toward it. His massive feet pounded the jungle floor as he accelerated, servos straining, kyber-enhanced power flooding through every system. The ground shook with each footfall, and rebel soldiers dove aside as 30 feet of living metal built up speed that should have been impossible for something his size. His leg actuators reconfigured, channeling energy into compressed hydraulics. His back-mounted thrusters, designed for short-duration flight in his alt mode, engaged at maximum output. Mathematics and physics warred in his processors. Terminal velocity versus thrust capacity versus atmospheric resistance versus mass ratios. The matrix of leadership pulsed, and suddenly, Optimus felt something else. The Force, that mysterious energy Torn had described, flowing around him, through him, perhaps even responding to his desperate need. The kyber crystals in his chest resonated, and their output spiked by another 15%. Optimus Prime launched himself toward the sky. The acceleration would have killed any organic being instantly. G-forces that would liquefy flesh barely registered on Cybertronian systems designed for high-velocity transformation sequences. Optimus punched through cloud cover, through the troposphere, through atmospheric layers that grew thinner and colder, until even sound couldn't travel. His thrusters burned at maximum, consuming power at a rate that would drain his kyber reserves in minutes. But minutes were all he needed. The stars grew brighter, sharper, as atmosphere gave way to vacuum, and there, hanging in the void like metal monuments to tyranny, were the Star Destroyers. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, the sensor officer's voice went up an octave. "Captain, something just launched from the surface. Extreme velocity. It's heading directly toward us." Royce spun toward the viewports. "What? Show me." The external cameras tracked the impossible sight. A metal giant rocketing through space on pillars of blue-white thrust, his ion blaster already charging for attack, his optics burning like twin stars of judgment. "All batteries, target that thing," Royce screamed. "Bring it down." The Star Destroyer's point defense turbo lasers opened fire, filling space with deadly energy. Optimus twisted, his form spinning with grace that defied his size, dodging bolts that could vaporize starfighters. His combat programming, refined through eons of space battles against Decepticon armadas, treated the barrage as merely challenging rather than impossible. He returned fire. His ion blaster, kyber-enhanced and operating in the perfect vacuum of space where energy dissipation was minimal, hit the Star Destroyer's shield generators with pinpoint accuracy. Shields flickered and died in that section, and Optimus adjusted his trajectory, angling toward the now vulnerable hull. "He's going to ram us," someone on the bridge shouted. But Optimus had a better plan. As he closed to within meters of the Star Destroyer's hull, his free hand extended, fingers spreading, and then he grabbed onto the ship's surface, maglocks in his palms engaging with Imperial steel. His momentum arrested with a jolt that would have torn a normal being apart. Now he was on the Star Destroyer's hull, in perfect position, and the Empire was about to learn why Autobots were feared across Cybertronian space. His ion blaster pressed directly against the ship's armor plating, bypassing shields entirely, and fired at point-blank range. The blast punched through the hull, through interior bulkheads, through vital systems. Atmosphere vented in explosive decompression, and alarms shrieked throughout the vessel. Optimus moved. Hand over hand, maglocks releasing and reattaching, he crawled across the Star Destroyer's surface like some kind of metallic predator. Each position gave him new firing angles, new targets. Shield generators exploded. Turbo laser batteries went offline. Communications arrays disintegrated under precise shots. "Get it off!" Royce was beyond panic now, slamming his fist on the tactical console. "Deploy stormtroopers with heavy weapons! Launch more fighters! Do something!" TIE fighters swarmed from the hangar bays, but fighting a target on their own ship's hull proved nearly impossible. They couldn't fire without risking friendly fire, couldn't maneuver in the tight confines. Optimus swatted them aside with his free hand, his immense strength simply batting the small fighters away like insects. A stormtrooper squad did manage to reach the hull, mag-booted and carrying E-Web heavy repeating blasters. They opened fire, bolts splashing across Optimus's armor. He felt the impacts. These weapons, while primitive by Cybertronian standards, could still damage him with sustained fire. "I do not wish to harm you," Optimus transmitted on standard Imperial frequencies. "You are soldiers following orders, but I will defend the innocent against tyranny. Stand down." The stormtroopers' response was to intensify their fire. These were Imperial troops, trained from conscription to view the Emperor's enemies as less than sentient. Rebellion as treason deserving only death. Optimus had given them a chance. He'd learned long ago that you couldn't save everyone, couldn't redeem every soldier who chose the wrong side. His ion blaster swept across the hull, and the stormtroopers' maglocks failed. They tumbled away into space, their screams cut short as vacuum claimed them. The lead Star Destroyer was crippled now, listing as its maneuvering systems failed. But Optimus's kyber reserves were depleting rapidly. His internal chronometer indicated he had perhaps 90 seconds of operational power remaining before he'd need to retreat to atmosphere and recharge. 90 seconds. He needed to make them count. The second Star Destroyer had been maneuvering to bring its weapons to bear, but its captain had made a tactical error, positioning the ship broadside to protect the flagship. Optimus launched himself across the void, thrusters burning the last of their fuel reserves, crossing the distance in a ballistic arc that terminated with him slamming into the second destroyer's bridge tower. The viewports shattered under his impact. Atmosphere explosive decompressed, sucking officers and crew into space. Optimus pulled himself into the bridge itself, his form too large for the space, but he was beyond caring about property damage. Captain Jarek, commanding officer of the second destroyer, stared at the metal titan that had just torn through his bridge like it was paper. To his credit, he didn't panic. He drew his blaster pistol and fired, the shots sparking harmlessly off Optimus's chest. "Your empire destroys worlds to maintain order," Optimus said, his voice carrying through the dying bridge on emergency speakers. "It enslaves populations and calls it peace. It murders innocents and calls it security." He advanced on Jarek, each step deliberate. "I have fought tyranny for millions of years, Captain. Your empire is not special. It is simply the latest in a long, sad history of those who chose power over compassion." "The Emperor will make you into scrap metal," Jarek spat. "You're just one machine." "No," Optimus replied quietly. "I am hope. And hope cannot be destroyed by star destroyers, or turbo lasers, or imperial decrees. It endures, it spreads, it wins." His ion blaster aimed not at Jarek, but at the bridge's main reactor controls. "Your ship is finished. Order evacuation, or die with it. Choose." Jarek looked at the metal giant, at the glowing optics that held no mercy but also no cruelty, and realized he was beaten. His hand moved to the intercom. "All hands, abandon ship." Optimus left him there, and made his way back to the hull. His power reserves were critical now, the kyber crystals dimming as they struggled to sustain his spark. The third Star Destroyer was retreating, its captain wise enough to recognize a losing engagement. Time to go home. The descent was controlled chaos. Optimus shut down non-essential systems, routing everything to atmospheric maneuvering as gravity seized him. He fell like a meteor, friction heating his armor to temperatures that would melt standard steel. But Cybertronian metallurgy had been forged in wars that spanned galaxies, and he survived. The jungle rushed up to meet him. Optimus fired thrusters at the last possible moment, bleeding off velocity, and crashed into a clearing 3 kilometers from the rebel base. The impact cratered the ground, and when the dust cleared, Optimus Prime lay motionless, his systems offline, his kyber reserves completely exhausted. Rebel search teams found him 10 minutes later. Torin Farr knelt beside his head, scanning desperately for signs of life. "His spark chamber is still active," she reported, relief flooding her voice. "He's in emergency stasis. We need to get him back to the base and recharge those kyber crystals immediately." It took 4 cargo speeders working in tandem to transport Optimus back to the temple. As they moved him, rebel soldiers who had watched him fight lined the jungle paths, silently saluting the metal warrior who had single-handedly crippled 2 Star Destroyers. Leia stood in the hangar as they brought him in, watching engineers swarm over his form with new kyber crystals. "Status?" she asked Torin. "He'll recover," but it was close. Another minute, and his spark would have extinguished permanently. Torin looked up at Optimus's peaceful face, his optics dark. "Princess, what he did up there. I've never seen anything like it. 1 defender against 3 capital ships, and he won." "Not alone," Leia said, looking at the damage reports coming in. "We lost 12 fighters, 2 anti-air batteries, and 23 soldiers. The cost was high. But we held," Dodonna said, joining them. "And the 3rd Star Destroyer is in full retreat. They're transmitting to Imperial Command that Yavin 4 is too heavily defended for standard assault." He allowed himself a rare smile. "They don't know we're barely holding together with spare parts and hope." Mon Mothma entered the hangar, her expression thoughtful as she studied the dormant Optimus Prime. "The Empire will be back," she said. "With more ships, better tactics, and they'll want him. Captured or destroyed, they can't allow this to stand." "Then we'd better make sure they can't have him," Leia said firmly. "Because something tells me we're going to need him for what comes next." In orbit, the 3rd Star Destroyer completed its hyperspace calculations. Captain Royce's replacement transmitted his report to Imperial High Command on Coruscant, detailing the engagement, the losses, and the unprecedented threat. The report would eventually reach Darth Vader's desk, and the Dark Lord of the Sith would read about a metal warrior who wielded energy weapons with precision, who moved with purpose and honor, and whose power signature resonated strangely with the Force itself. Vader would find this interesting. But that was a problem for another day. For now, in the Yavin 4 hangar, Torin Farr activated the new Kyber crystal array, and Optimus Prime's optics flickered back to life. "Status report," he said groggily, his systems reorienting. "You crippled 2 Star Destroyers and sent the 3rd running," Leia told him, unable to keep the awe from her voice. "Welcome back, Commander Prime." "Commander?" Optimus's optics brightened slightly. "I'm not—" "You are now," Mon Mothma said, stepping forward. "The Rebel Alliance doesn't grant rank lightly, but you've more than earned it. If you'll accept, we'd like you to take command of our heavy assault operations." She extended her hand. "What do you say, Commander?" Optimus looked at the hand, at the faces of the rebels watching him with hope and determination, and felt the matrix of leadership pulse warmly in his chest. He was far from home, far from his Autobots, but the fight remained the same. Freedom. Always freedom. "Till all are one," he said, carefully taking Mon Mothma's hand in his massive fingers. "I accept." The holonet exploded with news of Yavin 4 within hours. Imperial propaganda tried to spin the engagement as a minor setback, but the truth leaked through underground channels and rebel sympathizers embedded in Imperial bureaucracy. 2 Star Destroyers crippled. 40+ TIE fighters destroyed. All by a single defender described in hushed whispers as the Metal Titan or the Rebel's Guardian. On Coruscant, in the Obsidian Tower that served as the Emperor's throne room, Darth Vader reviewed the engagement footage with intense focus. The holographic projection showed Optimus Prime's assault in detail. His precision, his power, the way he moved through space with tactical brilliance that spoke of extensive military experience. "Fascinating," Emperor Palpatine rasped from his throne, yellow eyes gleaming. "A weapon of such magnitude, appearing from nowhere. Tell me, Lord Vader, what does the Force reveal about this Optimus Prime?" Vader's breathing apparatus cycled as he considered. "The Force is uncertain around him, my master. He is not alive in the way we understand life, yet he is not merely a machine. There is something within him that resonates, almost like a Force-sensitive presence, but alien. Wrong." He paused. "The Kyber crystals powering him create interference, as if the Force itself is confused by his existence." Palpatine's thin lips curved into something resembling a smile. "Then he must be brought before us. Alive if possible. I would know the secrets of his construction. Dead if necessary. We cannot allow the rebellion such a symbol of hope." His voice hardened. "Dispatch your Inquisitors, Lord Vader, and alert Grand Admiral Thrawn. This requires both the Force and superior tactical minds." "As you wish, my master." Vader turned to leave, but paused at the threshold. "Master, there is one other detail. The reports indicate Prime spoke of fighting for millions of years, if true. Then we face an enemy with more combat experience than the entire Imperial military combined," Palpatine interrupted. "Which makes him either the greatest asset we could acquire, or the greatest threat we must eliminate." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "I suspect it will be the latter. This Prime seems the heroic type. Such beings rarely see reason." After Vader departed, Palpatine sat alone in the darkness, contemplating this new variable. The Force had shown him many possible futures, many paths to absolute dominion. But this metal warrior from beyond the stars had appeared in none of his visions. That meant either the Force couldn't perceive him, or something was deliberately hiding him from sight. Neither possibility pleased the Emperor. Back on Yavin 4, Optimus Prime's new role as commander brought immediate challenges. The rebellion had never had a unified heavy assault doctrine because they'd never had the resources to field heavy assault units. Their strength came from hit-and-run tactics, sabotage, intelligence gathering, asymmetric warfare against an overwhelmingly superior enemy. Optimus understood asymmetric warfare. He'd practiced it for 4 million years against Megatron's forces. But he also understood that eventually, insurgencies had to transition to conventional warfare if they wanted to actually win, rather than simply survive. "Your current strategy is sound for preservation," Optimus said during his first tactical briefing with the Alliance leadership. He gestured to the holographic star map showing Imperial positions. "But preservation is not victory. You're fighting to survive until the Empire collapses under its own weight. That could take decades, centuries even. How many worlds will suffer under tyranny while you wait? Admiral Akbar bristled. With respect, Commander. You've been in this galaxy less than a week. You don't understand the strategic realities. I understand that you're terrified, Optimus said, not unkindly. And you should be. The Empire has resources you can't match, numbers you can't counter, technology you can barely comprehend. Fighting them conventionally would be suicide. He leaned forward, servos whirring. But what if you didn't fight them conventionally? What if you forced them to fight on your terms, in scenarios where their advantages became liabilities? We already do that, Dodonna pointed out. Hit and fade, strike from hyperspace, disappear before they can respond. You nibble at their edges, Optimus countered. I'm proposing you bite deep and make them bleed. Target infrastructure they depend on, Tibanna gas platforms, hyperspace beacon networks, shipyard suppliers. Make every system they control cost more to maintain than it generates in value. Force them to spread their fleets thin, protecting assets, then strike where they're weakest with overwhelming local superiority. Mon Mothma studied him thoughtfully. You're describing a war of economic attrition combined with strategic strikes. It would require resources we don't have. You have me, Optimus said simply. One Autobot with properly applied force can accomplish what an entire fleet cannot. I can board ships, sabotage facilities, engage Imperial forces in environments where their numbers mean nothing. I'm not suggesting you stop your current operations. I'm suggesting you add a new dimension the Empire isn't prepared to counter. Leia saw where he was going. You want to become a symbol, not just for us, but to the Empire. Make them afraid. Make them waste resources hunting you. Make them make mistakes. Exactly. Optimus's optics brightened. Fear is a weapon tyrants understand. Let's teach the Empire what it means to be afraid. The plan was audacious and had a dozen ways to fail catastrophically. But desperation made warriors bold, and the rebellion was nothing if not desperate. After 6 hours of debate, analysis, and argument, Mon Mothma made the decision. Operation. Prime Directive is approved, she announced. Commander Prime, you'll have a support team, intelligence assets, and whatever resources we can spare. Your objective: make the Empire regret occupying rebel sympathetic worlds. Show them that tyranny has a price. Optimus stood, his full height dominating the room. I will not fail you. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. It's time the Empire learned that lesson. But even as the rebellion celebrated its new strategy, Imperial forces were mobilizing. Grand Admiral Thrawn, arguably the Empire's most brilliant tactical mind, received his assignment with characteristic calm. A metal warrior from another galaxy, Thrawn mused, studying the available data with his distinctive red eyes. Fascinating. Captain Pelion, what do we know of his psychology? Captain Pelion consulted his datapad. Reports indicate he values freedom, shows compassion for organics, and demonstrates what appears to be an honor code. He warned stormtroopers before engaging, offered an Imperial captain the chance to evacuate. He fights like a Jedi, Thrawn interrupted, his tone contemplative. Not in technique, but in philosophy. Noble, principled, willing to show mercy even to enemies. A slight smile crossed his blue features. Such beings are predictable, Captain. Their morals become their weakness. We won't defeat this Prime through force. We'll defeat him by making him choose between his principles and victory. How, sir? Thrawn gestured to the star map, his fingers tracing patterns. We identify worlds the rebellion values, colonies with large civilian populations, places where Prime's compassion will compel him to act. Then we create scenarios where any action he takes results in tragedy. His red eyes gleamed. We won't capture him, Pelion. We'll make him surrender himself to save innocent lives. And once we have him in custody, the Emperor's scientists will unlock the secrets of his construction. And if he doesn't surrender, then civilians die, and the rebellion's great hero is revealed as just another warrior willing to sacrifice innocence for victory. Thrawn turned from the map. Either way, we win. Prepare the fleet, Captain. We're going hunting. Meanwhile, On a forgotten moon in the Outer Rim, the Inquisitorius prepared their own response. The fifth brother, the seventh sister, and the Grand Inquisitor himself gathered in the ruins of an ancient Sith temple, their crimson lightsabers casting blood-red light across crumbling walls. "The Emperor wants this machine captured or destroyed," the Grand Inquisitor said, his voice cold and precise. "But I sense opportunity here. This Prime carries kyber crystals within his body, crystals that resonate with the Force. If we could extract them, study how they interface with his alien technology." He smiled beneath his mask. "We might unlock power the Jedi never imagined." "He's dangerous," the seventh sister warned. "The reports say he destroyed 2 Star Destroyers. How do we engage something like that?" "We don't engage it directly," the Grand Inquisitor replied. "We hunt his allies, torture rebel prisoners in his presence, force him to watch innocents suffer because of his presence in this galaxy, break his spirit before we break his body." His hand caressed his lightsaber hilt. "The Force has shown me his weakness. He cares too much. That compassion will be his undoing." The fifth brother grunted approval. "When do we begin?" "Soon. But first, we need bait." The Grand Inquisitor activated a hologram showing a small agricultural world in rebel-controlled space. The planet Lothal, home to several rebel cells and a population sympathetic to their cause. "We'll occupy it, brutalize its people, and wait for Prime to come save them." His smile widened. "And when he arrives, we'll teach this alien machine what it means to face the dark side of the Force." On Yavin 4, unaware of the multiple threats converging toward him, Optimus Prime prepared for his first official rebellion mission. Torin Farr had fabricated additional kyber crystal power cells, giving him several days of operational capacity. His weapon systems had been recalibrated for optimal efficiency. His armor had been repaired where Imperial fire had damaged it. He stood in the hangar, testing his systems, when Leia approached with a small container. "I brought you something," she said, opening it to reveal a symbol. A stylized bird, wings spread in flight. The Rebellion's Starbird insignia. "We'd like you to carry this. Show the galaxy that even beings from beyond the stars fight for freedom." Optimus carefully took the insignia, studying it with appreciation. "On Cybertron, we have a similar symbol. The Autobot insignia, representing our commitment to protecting life and preserving freedom." He placed the Starbird on his chest, next to where the matrix of leadership resided. "I will wear this with honor, Princess, and I will prove worthy of the trust you've placed in me." "I know you will," Leia said. Then more quietly, "Optimus, I need to ask, do you think you'll ever find your way home? Back to your people?" Optimus was silent for a long moment. "I don't know. The space bridge that brought me here is destroyed. Even if I could rebuild it, I don't know the dimensional coordinates to my galaxy. I may be trapped here permanently." He looked down at Leia, and his expression softened. "But perhaps that's fate. Perhaps I was meant to be here, to fight this war, to help liberate this galaxy before returning to my own." The Primes have always taught that there are no coincidences, only opportunities to serve a greater purpose. That's a remarkably optimistic view for someone who's been stranded in an alien universe. "Optimism is a survival trait, Princess. Without it, I would have given up millions of years ago when the war on Cybertron seemed unwinnable. Instead, I kept fighting, kept hoping, kept believing that tomorrow could be better than today." His optics brightened. "And sometimes that belief is what makes tomorrow better." Leia smiled despite herself. "You know, I think I'm starting to understand why your people made you their leader. They made me their leader because I was willing to bear the weight of their hopes," Optimus replied. "Just as Mon Mothma bears the weight of yours. Leadership isn't about being the strongest or the smartest, Princess. It's about being willing to sacrifice everything for those who depend on you, and then living with the choices you make." Before Leia could respond, the alert klaxon sounded. Captain Antilles' voice came over the comm system, urgent and strained. "All command personnel to operations immediately. We've received a distress call from Lothal. The Empire is conducting mass arrests. Civilians are being executed in public squares. They're broadcasting it across the holonet, showing the whole galaxy." Optimus and Leia exchanged looks, both recognizing a trap when they saw one. But what choice did they have? Innocents were dying. "Prepare my transport," Optimus said quietly. "I'm going to Lothal." "It's a trap," Leia warned. "I know." Optimus's voice was grim. "But sometimes, you walk into traps because people are counting on you to do exactly that. Because being a hero means doing the right thing even when it costs everything." He headed toward the hangar where a modified Rebel transport awaited. Its cargo bay expanded to accommodate his size. Behind him, Leia watched with growing dread, wondering if they were sending their greatest asset to his death. Or worse, to capture by an empire that would learn every secret his alien body contained. Lothal was a planet of golden grasslands and struggling industry, its people caught between the fading dream of the Republic and the harsh reality of Imperial occupation. When Optimus Prime's transport emerged from hyperspace in the system's outer reaches, he immediately understood why the Empire had chosen this world. It wasn't strategically vital. It wasn't resource-rich. It was simply visible, a stage upon which the Empire could demonstrate what happened to worlds that harbored rebel sympathies. "Scanning Imperial presence," reported Lieutenant Hera Syndulla, the Twi'lek pilot Mon Mothma had assigned to this mission. Her eyes widened at the sensor readouts. 2 Star Destroyers in orbit, full TIE complement, and force readings on the surface. Multiple Star Destroyers worth of ground forces occupying Capital City. "This is a full military occupation. They want me to see the overwhelming force," Optimus observed from the cargo bay, his sensors patched into the ship's systems. "They want me to understand that any attempt to intervene will result in massive casualties." He was quiet for a moment. "Smart tactics. Exploit compassion to force poor strategic choices." "So, what do we do?" Hera asked. "We can't fight that many Imperial forces." "No. But we can evacuate civilians while the Empire is focused on me." Optimus began running calculations, wargaming scenarios with the speed only a Cybertronian processor could achieve. "The Empire expects me to attack directly, to try to be the hero. Instead, I'll give them what they want, a target to focus on, while your team extracts refugees from the southern districts. They'll be so busy trying to capture me. They won't notice the evacuation until it's too late." "You're going to be bait," Hera said slowly. "Intentionally." "I've been bait before, Lieutenant. Usually it works out." Optimus's tone suggested that usually carried a lot of painful exceptions. "Drop me at these coordinates." He transmitted a location outside Capital City. "Then proceed to the refugee extraction points. I'll keep the Empire occupied." Hera studied the coordinates, then looked back at the massive alien warrior in her cargo bay. "How exactly do you plan to keep 2 Star Destroyers and an occupation force occupied by yourself?" Optimus's ion blaster configured from his arm, energy building in its chamber. Loudly. The drop was rough, atmospheric insertion at combat speeds to avoid Imperial sensors until the last possible moment. Optimus Prime hit the grasslands of Lothal like a meteor, the impact cratering the ground and sending up a plume of dust visible for kilometers. He rose from the crater, his systems adjusting to the planet's gravity and atmosphere, and activated his comm system on all Imperial frequencies. "I am Optimus Prime, commander of Rebel Alliance Heavy Assault Operations." His voice boomed across every Imperial channel. "You have occupied Lothal, terrorized its people, and murdered innocents to draw me here. You succeeded. I'm here. Now face me, if you dare." On the lead Star Destroyer, Commander Oresco nearly fell from his chair. The target just announced himself. He's 8 kilometers outside Capital City, alone, and... He listened to his comm. "He's challenging us to combat?" "It's a diversion," Captain Pelion said immediately, recognizing Thrawn's prediction coming true. "He's drawing our attention while rebel forces extract sympathizers. Sir, we should split our forces. Half to engage Prime, half to lock down the city and prevent evacuations." "Negative," Oresco snapped, his ego overriding tactical sense. "Grand Admiral Thrawn wants this Prime captured. We throw everything at him. TIE fighters, ATSTs, every trooper we can spare. I want him overwhelmed and in binders within the hour." Pelion bit back a protest. Oresco was technically senior officer, and arguing would be insubordination. But he made a mental note to document this decision in his report. Thrawn would not be pleased. The Imperial response was exactly what Optimus had predicted. Overwhelming and focused entirely on him. TIE fighters screamed across the grasslands in attack formation. ATST walkers advanced in mechanical lockstep. Troop transports disgorged stormtroopers by the hundred, all converging on the lone figure standing in the crater. Optimus watched them come, his tactical computers analyzing approach vectors, weak points, command structures. The Decepticons had taught him to read battlefields the way poets read verse, understanding the rhythm, the flow, the moments where pressure applied precisely could shatter entire formations. "Forgive me," he said quietly, though no one could hear. "But sometimes, to save lives, you must take them." The first wave of TIE fighters opened fire, and Optimus moved. Not away, into the attack. His ion blaster tracked with mechanical precision, each shot placed where fighters would be, rather than where they were. The kyber crystals in his chest pulsed, feeding him power, and his targeting systems achieved something approaching perfection. TIE fighters exploded in sequential cascades, their formations disrupted by pilots desperately evading an enemy who seemed to predict their every maneuver. Within 90 seconds, 16 fighters were burning wreckage scattered across the grasslands, and the survivors were breaking off in panic. The ATSTs arrived next, their chin-mounted blaster cannons opening fire from 400 meters. Optimus felt the impacts. These weapons were more powerful than standard stormtrooper blasters, capable of actually damaging his armor with sustained fire. He needed to end this quickly. He charged. 30 feet of Cybertronian warrior running at full sprint was a sight few in this galaxy had witnessed and survived to describe. The ground shook with each footfall, and the ATST pilots had just enough time to realize their mistake before Optimus was among them. His first strike tore an ATST's leg off at the knee joint, the walker toppling with a shriek of tearing metal. His second punch caved in a cockpit, the pilot inside dying instantly. His third movement was a sweep of his leg that knocked two walkers off balance, sending them crashing into each other. The remaining ATSTs tried to retreat, but Optimus was faster. His ion blaster picked them off methodically, each shot penetrating cockpit armor and ending the engagement. Within 3 minutes, the entire ATST squadron was neutralized. But the stormtroopers were the real problem. Hundreds of them, spreading out in proper infantry formation, using the burning wreckage as cover, laying down suppressing fire that sparkled across Optimus's armor. Individually, they couldn't hurt him. Collectively, they could wear him down, drain his kyber reserves through sheer attrition. Optimus needed to break their morale, force them to retreat or surrender. He needed to be terrifying. He activated his external speakers at maximum volume. "Soldiers of the Empire, you fight for tyrants who care nothing for your lives. They sent you to die against me, to sacrifice yourselves capturing a prize for your emperor." His voice echoed across the battlefield, over the sound of blaster fire and burning machines. "I offer you one chance. Retreat now and live. Stay and fight, and I will show no mercy to those who would brutalize innocents." The stormtroopers' response was to intensify their fire. These were Imperial troops, indoctrinated, trained to obey without question, taught that the enemy was always wrong and the Empire always right. They would fight until they couldn't, because that was their programming. Optimus had seen this before, on 100 worlds. Soldiers so committed to their cause that they couldn't recognize when their cause was wrong. It saddened him, but it didn't stop him. His next actions were brutal and efficient. He waded into their formations, his massive hands grabbing stormtroopers and hurling them away with non-lethal force when possible, crushing weapons and vehicles when necessary. His ion blaster fired in wide dispersal mode, knocking down entire squads with concussive force rather than killing shots. But some had to die. That was war's terrible arithmetic. The ones who aimed for his optics, who targeted his joints with armor-piercing rounds, who fought with skill and determination. Those Optimus couldn't afford to simply disable. Those he killed, quickly and without hesitation, because hesitation in combat got you killed or got innocents killed. By the time the main Imperial force retreated back toward Capital City, leaving nearly 300 casualties scattered across the grasslands, Optimus Prime stood alone in a field of burning wreckage. His armor was scorched, several non-critical systems had been damaged, and his kyber reserves had dropped to 70%. But he'd held. And in the city, he knew Hera's team was evacuating civilians, while the Empire's attention remained fixed on him. Phase 1 complete, he transmitted on the Rebel encrypted channel. Extraction status? We've loaded 200 refugees, Hera responded. But Optimus, we've got a problem. The Inquisitors just arrived in the city. They're executing civilians in the central square, one every 10 minutes until you surrender yourself. Optimus felt something cold settle in his spark chamber. The Inquisitors, Force wielders who hunted the Jedi survivors. He'd heard about them in briefings, understood they were dangerous, but had never faced them personally. How many civilians? He asked quietly. They have 50 in the square. Public executions broadcast across the holonet. Optimus, they're making an example, showing the galaxy what happens when the rebellion operates on a world. Hera's voice was strained. If you come to stop them, it's an obvious trap. If you don't, those people die, and the rebellion looks like cowards who won't protect innocents. Optimus Prime stood in the burning grasslands, surrounded by the consequences of war, and felt the weight of command settle on him once again. This was the choice that defined leaders, the impossible decision where every option led to death, and you had to pick which death you could live with. Continue the evacuation, he said finally. Get every refugee you can off-world. I'm going to the city. Optimus, it's a trap. I know, Lieutenant, but those civilians didn't ask to be pawns in this war. They're dying because I exist, because the Empire wants to use them as leverage against me. If I abandon them, I prove the Empire right, that the rebellion cares more about winning than protecting people. His voice hardened. I will not give them that victory. Prime out. He began walking toward Capital City, each step deliberate, his systems running combat calculations. The Inquisitors had force powers, precognition, telekinesis, enhanced reflexes. They wielded lightsabers that could potentially cut through his armor, and they'd be prepared, ready for him, with traps and ambushes planned. But Optimus Prime had fought force-sensitive opponents before. Not in this galaxy, but on Cybertron, where certain Decepticons wielded mental powers and energy manipulation that resembled the Force in disturbing ways. And he'd learned that no precognition could predict actions taken from pure, unwavering conviction. If you committed absolutely to a course of action, removed all doubt and hesitation, you became predictable in a way that paradoxically made you harder to stop. Because the Force could show you what was coming, but it couldn't always show you how to survive it. The Inquisitors wanted him in Capital City? Fine. He'd come, and he'd show them what happened when you threatened innocence in front of an Autobot Prime. The matrix of leadership pulsed in his chest, resonating with the kyber crystals, feeding him strength and purpose. Optimus didn't fully understand the Force, didn't know if his matrix connected to it somehow, but he felt its presence now, vast and deep and ancient, watching this confrontation with interest. Till all are one, he whispered, and the city grew larger on the horizon. The sun was setting, painting the grasslands gold and red, the colors of Cybertron's final days before the war consumed everything beautiful. Optimus had failed to save his world. He would not fail here, whatever the cost. Capital City's central square had been converted into an execution ground. 50 civilians, men, women, even children, knelt in organized rows, their hands bound, stormtroopers standing behind each one with blasters pressed to their heads. Massive view screens had been erected around the square, broadcasting this spectacle across the holonet, ensuring the entire galaxy witnessed the Empire's message. The Grand Inquisitor stood at the center of it all, his crimson double-bladed lightsaber ignited and held loosely in one hand. The weapon's red glow cast shadows across his pale, angular features as he addressed the cameras with theatrical precision. "Citizens of the galaxy, witness imperial justice," he intoned, his voice carrying across the square through amplification. This world harbored terrorists, gave them shelter, supplies, comfort. And when the Emperor's mercy offered them redemption, they instead invited a foreign weapon, a machine from beyond our reality, to bring violence to their streets. He paced slowly among the kneeling prisoners. Such choices have consequences. He stopped behind a young woman, perhaps 20 standard years old, her face streaked with tears. Every 10 minutes, one of these traitors dies, unless Optimus Prime surrenders himself to Imperial custody. Then, and only then, will mercy be granted. His lightsaber moved, hovering near the woman's neck. The count begins now. Optimus Prime entered the city on foot, his sensors detecting the trap layers with crystalline clarity. Snipers on rooftops, 20 positions, all with sight lines to the square. AT walkers positioned at major intersections, 4 of them, their massive forms blocking escape routes. Stormtrooper battalions in buildings surrounding the square, ready to pour fire into the kill zone. And in the building's basements, his sensors detected power signatures consistent with explosive charges. They'd rigged the entire district. If he tried to extract the civilians by force, they'd detonate the charges and bury everyone under rubble. Hundreds would die, maybe thousands, and the Empire would blame him for the devastation. Brilliant tactics, if morally bankrupt. Thrawn's influence showed in every detail. "I'm approaching the square," Optimus transmitted to Hera. "Whatever happens next, continue the evacuation. Get those refugees off-world." "Optimus, wait." He cut the transmission. This had to be his choice, his responsibility. Leaders didn't delegate the impossible decisions. They shouldered them personally and lived with the consequences. The Grand Inquisitor sensed his approach before visual confirmation. The Force rippled with anticipation, and the Pau'an's thin lips curved into a predatory smile. "He comes," he announced to his fellow Inquisitors, the 7th sister and 5th brother flanking him. "Prepare yourselves. This one is dangerous." "It's just a machine," the 5th brother growled, his massive frame tensing. "Machines can be broken. This one survived millions of years of war," the Grand Inquisitor corrected. "Underestimate him at your peril. We fight as one, use the dark side to overwhelm his advantages, and remember, the Emperor wants him functional. Disable, don't destroy." Optimus Prime emerged into the central square, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Many had seen holographic footage, but witnessing 30 feet of alien warrior in person was different. He was massive, imposing, his armor still scorched from the earlier battle, the rebellion's Starbird insignia gleaming on his chest next to something that pulsed with strange blue light. The Grand Inquisitor stepped forward, his lightsaber held in a guard position. "Optimus Prime, how noble of you to accept our invitation. Your reputation for compassion precedes you." "Release the civilians," Optimus said, his voice carrying across the square without need for amplification. "They're not part of this conflict. Your quarrel is with me." "But they are part of this conflict," the Inquisitor replied smoothly. "They chose sides when they harbored rebels. They chose sides when they celebrated the Death Star's destruction. They chose sides when they welcomed you to their world." He gestured to the prisoners. "Now they face the consequences of their choice. Unless you make a different choice, surrender, and they live. Resist, and they die. Simple mathematics." Optimus's tactical computer ran the scenarios at lightning speed. If he surrendered, the Empire would study him, learn his technology, possibly reverse engineer Cybertronian systems. They'd gain knowledge that could shift the war's balance irrevocably. But if he fought, civilians died, and the Empire won a propaganda victory. Unacceptable options on both sides, which meant he needed a third option. "I have a counterproposal," Optimus said. "Release the civilians, and I'll fight you and your Inquisitors. 1 against 3. You win, I surrender peacefully. I win, everyone walks away." The Grand Inquisitor actually laughed. "Why would we agree to that when we hold all the advantages?" "Because you're curious," Optimus replied, his optics fixing on the Pau'an. "You want to test yourselves against something unprecedented. You want to see if your force powers can overcome Cybertronian engineering. And because..." His voice lowered, became almost conversational. "You know that if I fight without restraint with nothing to lose, I'll destroy half this city before you bring me down. How many stormtroopers will die? How many Imperial assets will I obliterate? How will you explain that failure to your Emperor?" The Grand Inquisitor's expression didn't change, but Optimus's sensors detected the spike in his heart rate. He'd struck a nerve. The Inquisitor's pride, his desire to prove his superiority, and his fear of reporting catastrophic losses. "The prisoners remain," the Grand Inquisitor said finally, "but we'll hold our fire. You survive 10 minutes against us, they're released. You fall before then." He smiled coldly. "Well, we'll have our prize either way." Agreed. The Grand Inquisitor's double-bladed lightsaber whirled, and he attacked with inhuman speed. The Force propelled him forward, closing the distance in a blink. His crimson blade aimed at Optimus's optical sensors. The seventh sister and fifth brother moved simultaneously, flanking, their own lightsabers cutting air with lethal precision. Optimus's combat protocols engaged, time seeming to slow as his processors accelerated. The Grand Inquisitor's strike came from the left, block with forearm, reinforced armor deflecting the lightsaber with a shower of sparks. The seventh sister's thrust from the right, pivot, dodge, her blade passing centimeters from his chassis. The fifth brother's overhead smash, catch his wrist, redirect the momentum, throw him into a building wall. The crowd watched in stunned silence as metal titan and force wielders clashed at speeds that blurred together. Lightsabers carved glowing lines through the air, each one potentially lethal, each one deflected or dodged by Optimus's superior reflexes and millions of years of combat programming. "He's faster than he should be," the seventh sister gasped, her acrobatics barely keeping her ahead of Optimus's counterstrike. "How is he predicting our movements?" "Cybertronians don't rely on mystical foresight," Optimus said, his voice steady despite the intensity of combat. "We calculate probability matrices, analyze muscle memory patterns, predict tactics based on psychological profiles." His hand shot out, grabbing the Grand Inquisitor's lightsaber blade directly, his reinforced palm plating designed to withstand temperatures exceeding stellar cores for brief moments. "Your force shows you possible futures. My processors show me probable outcomes. Similar results, different methods." He twisted, and the Grand Inquisitor's lightsaber tore free from his grip, clattering across the square. Before the Pawan could retrieve it with force telekinesis, Optimus's foot came down on the weapon, crushing its hilt and extinguishing the blade. "One down," Optimus said. The Grand Inquisitor's yellow eyes widened, not with fear, but with fury. He extended both hands, and the force became a physical pressure slamming into Optimus's chest. The Cybertronian warrior staggered, servos straining against invisible force, his feet tearing grooves in the square's pavement as he was pushed backward. "You think you can stand against the dark side?" the Grand Inquisitor snarled, pouring more power into his force push. "You're nothing! Just metal and circuits pretending at life!" "I'm more alive than you'll ever be," Optimus grunted, fighting forward against the telekinetic pressure. "Because I choose compassion over hate, purpose over power, freedom over tyranny." His foot gained purchase, stopped sliding. "And because I've fought beings far more powerful than you, for far longer than you can comprehend." The matrix of leadership in his chest suddenly blazed with light, brilliant blue-white radiance that made everyone shield their eyes. The Kyber crystals resonated with the matrix, their combined energy creating a feedback loop that the Force itself seemed to notice. The Grand Inquisitor's telekinetic push wavered, disrupted by something he couldn't name. Optimus lunged forward, breaking free of the Force grip, and his ion blaster fired at point-blank range. The Grand Inquisitor barely dodged, the energy bolt missing him by centimeters and vaporizing a section of the building behind him. The Pawan rolled, came up in a crouch, and his face twisted with genuine concern for the first time. "What are you?" he demanded. "That light, it's not technology. It's something else. Something the Force recognizes but can't comprehend." "The matrix of leadership," Optimus said, his chest plates still glowing faintly. "The collected wisdom and power of all primes who came before me. Perhaps it's similar to your Force. Perhaps they're different expressions of the same universal truth. I don't know." His ion blaster aimed at the Grand Inquisitor. "But I know it won't let me fall while innocents need protecting." The seventh sister and fifth brother attacked together, coordinating their strikes with force-enhanced precision. But Optimus had been fighting coordinated opponents since before their species evolved. He caught the fifth brother's descending blade between his hands, the lightsaber's energy searing his palms but not penetrating his reinforced plating. With a wrench, he twisted the weapon from the Inquisitor's grip and hurled it away. The seventh sister's blade scored a line across his back, cutting through armor, sparks flying. Optimus felt the damage, systems failing, power rerouting, but ignored the pain subroutines. Pain was just information. Information could be processed and dismissed when necessary. He spun, faster than something his size should move, and his backhand caught the seventh sister across her torso. She flew backward, crashed through a merchant's stall, and didn't rise. Not dead. His sensors confirmed her life signs, but unconscious. 2 down. The fifth brother roared and charged barehanded, his massive Downton physique enhanced by dark side rage. He slammed into Optimus like a living battering ram, actually staggering the Cybertronian. Fists enhanced by the Force pounded against Optimus's chassis, denting armor, cracking viewports in his optics. "You're just metal," the fifth brother screamed, pounding furiously. "Metal breaks, metal dies." "Metal endures," Optimus replied calmly, and grabbed the Inquisitor's head in both hands. "Metal remembers. Metal learns." He lifted the fifth brother off his feet, the Dawutan's legs kicking uselessly. "And metal protects those who cannot protect themselves." He threw the fifth brother toward the Grand Inquisitor, with enough force to send both tumbling across the square in a tangle of limbs and robes. The chronometer read 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Optimus had survived longer than the Inquisitors expected. Longer than should have been possible against 3 Force wielders working in concert. His armor was damaged, his Kyber reserves down to 40%, several systems flagging critical errors. But he was still standing, still functional, still defiant. The Grand Inquisitor rose slowly, his robes torn, his pale face now showing bruises. He looked at Optimus with something approaching respect, mixed with hatred. "You're more than we anticipated," he admitted. "But this ends now. Fifth brother, the charges." Optimus's sensors screamed warnings as the fifth brother pulled a detonator from his robes. "You wanted a choice, machine? Here's your choice. Surrender now, or we detonate the explosives buried throughout this district. Thousands die. Their blood on your hands." The hostages gasped, understanding flooding their faces. The entire negotiation had been theater. The Inquisitors never intended to honor any agreement. They'd simply stalled, tested Optimus's capabilities, and now prepared to force his surrender through mass murder. Optimus's tactical computer ran the probabilities. He could shoot the fifth brother before the detonator was triggered. 73% certainty. But the Grand Inquisitor could use Force telekinesis to trigger it remotely. 92% certainty he'd succeed before Optimus could stop him. And even if both Inquisitors were killed instantly, dead man switches might trigger the charges automatically. Unwinnable scenario. Tactical checkmate. "You win," Optimus said quietly, lowering his ion blaster. "I surrender. Release the hostages and disarm the explosives." "Optimus, no!" Hera's voice crackled through his comm. "Don't do this." But Optimus had made his choice. Better that he fall than thousands of innocents. Better that the Empire study his technology than bury Lothal's citizens under rubble. Some defeats were still victories if you measured them by lives saved rather than battles won. "I am Optimus Prime," he said, his voice carrying across the square. Across the holonet broadcasts to a watching galaxy. "And I choose to sacrifice my freedom so others may live. That is what heroes do. That is what the rebellion stands for. Remember this, citizens of the Empire, we fight for you. We suffer for you. And we will never stop until every sentient being is free from tyranny." The Grand Inquisitor smiled coldly. "Such noble words. The Emperor will enjoy breaking you." He gestured to the stormtroopers. "Restrain him. Full suppression fields and mag clamps. I want him completely immobilized." Stormtroopers approached with massive electromagnetic restraints designed for containing heavy machinery. Optimus didn't resist as they attached the clamps to his limbs, as suppression fields began draining his power reserves, as his systems one by one were forced into shutdown mode. But as his optics dimmed, he saw something that made his spark sing with quiet triumph. In the distance, beyond the city limits, civilian transports were launching. Hera had used the distraction, the time he'd bought with his surrender, to evacuate hundreds more refugees. They'd escape, spread word of what happened here, fuel the rebellion's cause with the story of the metal warrior who sacrificed himself for strangers. The Grand Inquisitor followed his gaze and cursed. "After those transports, shoot them down." "Too late," Optimus whispered as his systems shut down completely. "They're beyond effective firing range. You've captured me, Inquisitor. But you've lost the larger battle. Those refugees will tell their story, others will hear, and the Empire's grip will weaken because tyranny can never truly defeat hope." "Silence him," the Grand Inquisitor snarled. The last thing Optimus saw before forced shutdown was the hostages being released, their faces showing a mixture of grief and gratitude. He'd saved them, that was enough. Darkness claimed him, and Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots, warrior of Cybertron, champion of freedom, became the Empire's prisoner. The Imperial Research Facility on Scarif was designed to analyze and weaponize captured technology. Separatist droids, Jedi holocrons, ancient Sith artifacts, all had passed through its laboratories. But nothing had prepared the facility's scientists for Optimus Prime. He hung suspended in the main research chamber, electromagnetic restraints holding his 30-foot frame in a cruciform position. Suppression fields drained his kyber reserves to barely functional levels, keeping him conscious but helpless. Dozens of scanning devices surrounded him, probing every centimeter of his body with sensors, lasers, and instruments that had no analog in Cybertronian experience. Director Orson Krennic walked the observation platform above, his white cape trailing behind him as he studied the prisoner with unconcealed fascination. "Magnificent," he breathed. "Look at this craftsmanship. Every component precision-engineered, every system redundant and self-repairing. This isn't just a weapon. This is art." "It's an abomination," the Grand Inquisitor said coldly, standing beside him. "A thing that should not exist, powered by kyber crystals it has no right to possess. The Emperor should have let us destroy it on Lothal." "The Emperor is wiser than you, Inquisitor," Krennic replied without looking away from Optimus. "This Prime represents technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. If we can reverse engineer even a fraction of his systems, his power generation, his computational processors, his weapons, the Death Star will be obsolete before it's even operational." He smiled. "Imagine an army of these things, loyal to the Empire. We could conquer the entire galaxy in months." Optimus's optics flickered, focusing on Krennic. "You cannot replicate me," he said, his voice weak but defiant. "Cybertronians aren't manufactured. We're born from the Allspark, given life and spark and free will. What you're describing isn't creation. It's slavery with extra steps." "Spare me your philosophy," Krennic said dismissively. "You're a machine, however sophisticated. And machines can be duplicated, improved, controlled." He gestured to his lead scientist. "Begin the extraction sequence. I want that power core analyzed down to the molecular level." The scientist hesitated. "Director, if we remove the core, the subject will cease to function, permanently." "I'm aware. Proceed." "Wait." The voice came from the chamber's entrance, and everyone turned to see Darth Vader striding in. His black cape billowing, his mechanical breathing filling the room with its distinctive rhythm. "The Emperor has ordered this prisoner be kept alive for interrogation. You will not proceed with destructive analysis." Krennic's jaw tightened. "Lord Vader, with respect, this facility is under my authority." "No facility is beyond my authority," Vader interrupted, his voice cold. "The Emperor has questions for this Prime, about his origins, his galaxy, the nature of this matrix he carries. Those questions cannot be answered if you dismember him for parts." Vader approached the suspended Optimus, studying him with interest. "Besides, there are better ways to extract information than scalpels and scanners." He extended his gloved hand, and the Force surged forward, invisible pressure invading Optimus's mind, seeking memories, thoughts, secrets. It was a technique Vader had perfected through years of interrogation, capable of tearing mental defenses apart like tissue paper. But Optimus Prime's mind wasn't organic. It was a Cybertronian processor, a mechanical consciousness that operated on principles fundamentally different from biological brains. The Force found purchase, began to penetrate his thoughts, and then, the matrix of leadership blazed to life. Vader staggered backward, his hand dropping, something like pain or shock evident in his posture. The Force had touched the Matrix, and the Matrix had responded, not with aggression, but with sorrow so profound it echoed through the dark side like a shockwave. What? What was that? Vader's voice was shaken, an emotion his subordinates hadn't heard in years. The Matrix contains the memories of all Primes who have carried it, Optimus said quietly. Their triumphs, their failures, their sacrifices. You touched it with the dark side, Lord Vader, and it showed you something you've tried to forget. What it means to lose everything for a cause, to sacrifice your very soul, and to wonder if it was worth the cost. Vader's breathing quickened, his mechanical respirator cycling faster. You know nothing of my sacrifices. I know you were once something else, Optimus interrupted, his optics meeting Vader's masked gaze. I can see it in how you move, how you hold yourself. You carry regret like a physical weight. The Matrix recognized it because I carry the same weight, the knowledge that every choice I make condemns some while saving others. That leadership means living with the ghosts of those you couldn't save. Silence! Vader's hand extended again, and Force lightning crackled from his fingertips, blue-white energy slamming into Optimus's chassis. The Cybertronian convulsed, his system screaming warnings as electricity overloaded circuits and fried components. But even through the agony, Optimus didn't scream, didn't beg. You can torture me, he said through gritted metal teeth. You can tear me apart piece by piece, but you can't make me betray my principles. I've endured 4 million years of war, Lord Vader. Whatever you do to me, I've survived worse. Vader held the lightning for another moment, then released it, his hand lowering. He stood in silence, his masked face unreadable, breathing heavily. Finally, leave us, all of you. My lord, Krennic protested. This is highly irregular. Out. The word carried such finality that even the Grand Inquisitor obeyed, filing from the chamber with the scientists and guards. Only Vader and Optimus remained, predator and prey, Dark Lord and imprisoned warrior. Vader circled slowly, studying his captive from every angle. The Emperor wants to know if your galaxy poses a threat to ours, if more of your kind might follow. If this space bridge technology could be replicated to invade your universe, or allow your people to invade ours. My galaxy is locked in its own war, Optimus said. The Decepticons seek to conquer everything, and we Autobots fight to stop them. Your empire is not unique, Lord Vader. Tyranny wears many faces across many realities, but the pattern is always the same. Someone decides that freedom is too dangerous, that beings must be controlled for their own good, and someone else must stand against that lie. And how is your war progressing? Vader asked, his tone almost conversational. After 4 million years, have you won? Have you defeated your Decepticons and brought peace to your galaxy? The question struck deeper than any Force lightning. Optimus was silent for a long moment. No, he finally admitted. We survive. We fight. We save what we can. But victory... His voice grew distant. Victory seems further away with every passing century. Sometimes I wonder if the war will ever truly end, or if we're doomed to fight until there's nothing left of Cybertron worth saving. Then we're not so different, Vader said quietly. Both of us warriors who have fought too long, sacrificed too much for causes that may be unwinnable. Both of us leaders who bear the weight of millions of deaths. Both of us. He paused. Both of us wondering if we chose the right side. I know I chose the right side, Optimus said firmly. Even if we never win, even if the war continues forever, I know that fighting for freedom is right. Can you say the same, Lord Vader? Can you truly look at your empire at the worlds it enslaves, the innocents it murders, the fear it spreads, and believe you're serving something good? Vader's hands clenched into fists. The Empire brings order, stability. Without it, the galaxy would tear itself apart in chaos and civil war. Without it, the galaxy would be free to find its own path. Optimus interrupted. Even if that path was messy, chaotic, imperfect. Freedom means accepting that beings will make mistakes, will choose poorly sometimes. But at least they're choosing. At least they're alive in a way that matters. His optics burned with conviction. Your empire has chosen order over life, stability over hope. And that's not a choice I can ever respect, no matter how powerful you are. Vader stood motionless, and behind his mask, thoughts churned that he'd suppressed for decades. This metal alien, this prisoner who should be begging for mercy, was instead challenging the foundations of everything Vader had built his new life upon. And worse, some part of him, some buried fragment of Anakin Skywalker, was listening. "The Emperor will break you," Vader said finally. "He has methods that transcend physical torture. He will twist your mind, corrupt your precious matrix, turn you into a weapon against your rebellion." "He can try," Optimus replied. "But the Matrix has withstood the corruption of Megatron, the madness of Unicron, the entropy of dead universes. Your Emperor is powerful, but he's not a god. And I've learned that faith in your principles, absolute unwavering faith, is the strongest armor against any darkness. We shall see." Vader turned toward the exit, then paused. "Prime, if you had the chance to go home, to return to your war on Cybertron, would you take it? Or would you stay here? Continue this new fight?" Optimus considered carefully. "I don't know," he admitted. "My Autobots need me, but this galaxy needs heroes too. Perhaps..." He looked at his restrained hands, at the chains holding him. "Perhaps I was meant to be here. Perhaps this is where I can finally make a difference that matters. Perhaps you're simply a fool who doesn't know when he's beaten. Perhaps. But I've been a fool for 4 million years, and I'm not stopping now." Vader left without another word, but something in his stride seemed different. Less certain, more troubled. Behind him, Optimus Prime hung in his restraints, his power failing, his systems slowly shutting down from suppression field exposure. But his optics still glowed, defiant and unbroken. On Yavin 4th, Emergency Council convened. Mon Mothma's face was grave as she addressed the assembled rebel leadership. "Optimus Prime has been a prisoner for 36 hours. Imperial intelligence suggests he's being held on Scarif, in their advanced research facility. They're studying him, attempting to reverse engineer his technology." "We have to rescue him," Leia said immediately. "He surrendered himself to save civilians. We can't abandon him." "Scarif is one of the most heavily defended facilities in the Empire," Admiral Akbar pointed out. "Shield gate, garrison of thousands, orbital defense platforms. A rescue mission would be suicide." "Then we make it a raid," Dodonna suggested. "Hit them fast, extract Prime, get out before they can respond." "With what forces?" Akbar challenged. "We lost significant assets at Lothal. Our fleet is scattered. We'd need a full battle group to even reach Scarif's surface, and we'd lose most of it in the attempt." "He's worth it," Leia insisted. "What he represents, hope, defiance, proof that even the Empire's overwhelming force can be challenged. If we let him rot in an Imperial lab, what message does that send?" Mon Mothma raised her hand for silence. "Princess Leia is correct. We cannot abandon Commander Prime. But Admiral Akbar is also correct. A direct assault would cost more lives than we can afford to lose." She looked around the table. "So we find another way. Intelligence gathering, infiltration, perhaps even negotiation if necessary. We get our commander back. Whatever it takes." In his cell on Scarif, Optimus Prime heard none of this. But the matrix of leadership pulsed steadily in his chest, and through some connection, he didn't fully understand. He felt something. Distant, but growing closer. Hope. Determination. The rebellion coming for him. He smiled slightly, his optics brightening just a fraction. "Till all are one," he whispered to the darkness. and no Prime stands alone. The plan was desperate, cobbled together in 72 hours with incomplete intelligence and resources stretched past breaking point. But desperation had become the rebellion's specialty, and sometimes the most insane plans were the ones that worked. The shield gate is the key, Captain Cassian Andor explained, gesturing to the holographic projection of Scarif's orbital defenses. It's the only way in or out of the planet's atmosphere. We need someone inside the facility to deactivate it from the ground while our fleet engages above. And how exactly do we get someone inside? Dodonna asked skeptically. The facility has biometric scanners, security protocols, thousands of stormtroopers. We have something they want, Leia interrupted, pulling up a data file. Information on rebel fleet movements, safe house locations, supply caches. We offer a trade, intelligence for Prime. We send in negotiators, but they're actually our infiltration team. Mon Mothma studied the plan with calculating eyes. The Empire will know it's a trap. They'll be prepared for treachery. Good, Leia replied. Let them prepare for the trap they expect, while we execute the one they don't. Cassian's team goes in through the front door with fake intelligence. Meanwhile, a second team, myself, Hera, and selected commandos, infiltrate through the cargo docks disguised as supply personnel. We locate Prime, extract him during the chaos when negotiations inevitably break down. And the fleet? Akbar asked. Hits the shield gate with everything we have, Leia said. Not to destroy it. We need it functional to escape, but to keep Imperial forces occupied, unable to respond to the prison break. It'll be loud, messy, and expensive, but it'll work. The silence that followed was heavy with understanding of what expensive meant in military terms. Ships would be lost. Pilots would die. This rescue attempt would cost the rebellion resources it could barely afford. Mon Mothma looked around the table, meeting each officer's gaze. All in favor of Operation Liberation. Hands rose one by one until every member of the council had voted. Then we go. May the Force be with us all. Scarif's research facility operated on rigid schedules, and Director Krennic prided himself on maintaining perfect order. So when his assistant informed him that rebel representatives requested a prisoner exchange negotiation, his first instinct was to refuse. But Grand Admiral Thrawn, monitoring the situation remotely, had other ideas. Accept their offer, Thrawn's blue holographic form instructed, but be prepared for deception. The rebels are desperate to recover Prime, which makes them predictable. They'll attempt extraction during negotiations. Should I simply refuse them entry? Krennic asked. No, let them come. Let them commit forces to this rescue attempt. Then crush them utterly and capture additional prisoners in the process. Thrawn's red eyes gleamed. Sometimes the best trap is the one your enemy walks into willingly. Krennic smiled coldly. I'll prepare a welcoming committee. In his containment cell, Optimus Prime had spent 3 days in forced shutdown, his systems barely functional under constant suppression fields. But Cybertronian engineering was resilient, and he'd managed to divert minuscule amounts of power from the kyber crystals in his chest to slowly, incrementally recharge critical systems. It wasn't enough to break free, not even close. But it was enough to remain aware, to listen, to plan. He heard the facility's alert klaxons, the increased security protocols being implemented. Something was happening. Something that put the Empire on high alert. Through his limited sensor access, he detected ship movements in orbit, energy signatures consistent with capital ship weapons charging. The rebellion was coming for him. No, he whispered, horror flooding his consciousness. Don't do this. I'm not worth the cost. But even as he protested, a small part of his spark sang with gratitude. To know that others valued him enough to risk everything for his freedom, it was humbling and terrifying in equal measure. This was what leadership meant, knowing your life mattered to others and living with the responsibility that knowledge demanded. The containment cell's door suddenly exploded inward, the blast shearing through Imperial security locks. Leia rushed in, followed by Hera and 3 rebel commandos, all carrying heavy weapons and looking grimly determined. Sorry we're late, Leia said, pulling out a specialized electromagnetic disruptor. Had to fight through 2 security checkpoints and a very angry Inquisitor. This might sting a bit. She activated the disruptor, and the suppression fields surrounding Optimus flickered and died. Power surged back through his systems, kyber crystals blazing to life. Servos re-engaging with mechanical fury. The restraints holding him were designed for a dormant prisoner, not an active Cybertronian at full power. Optimus Prime tore them apart like paper. "Thank you, Princess," he said, his voice stronger now, his optics burning bright. "But you shouldn't have come. This is a trap." "We know," Leia replied, already moving toward the exit. "That's why we brought our own trap. Come on, we've got maybe 5 minutes before this whole facility locks down." They ran, Optimus's footfalls shaking the corridors, alarms shrieking, stormtroopers converging from every direction. The rebel commandos laid down suppressing fire, while Hera guided them through the facility using stolen layout schematics. It was chaos, brutal and desperate, and Optimus knew too many rebels were dying to buy his freedom. "Cassian, report!" Leia shouted into her comlink while ducking blaster fire. "Negotiations went exactly as poorly as expected." Cassian's voice came back strained. "We're pinned down in the data vault, heavy resistance, need extraction immediately." "Negative. We're heading to the hangar for extraction ourselves." "I'll get him," Optimus interrupted, already changing direction. "Get to the hangar, prep the transport, I'll retrieve your team and meet you there." "Optimus, you can't fight the entire garrison alone. Watch me." He was gone before Leia could protest further, his massive form barreling through corridors with purpose. Behind him, Leia exchanged looks with Hera. "Is he always like this?" "I'm starting to think so," Hera replied. "Come on, we need to trust him. Move!" Optimus Prime navigated the facility using sensor data he'd passively collected during his imprisonment, his processors reconstructing a 3-dimensional map in real time. Cassian's team was 3 levels down, surrounded by stormtroopers, and pinned behind inadequate cover. The tactical situation was grim. But tactical situations were what Optimus Prime had been handling for 4 million years. He burst through the data vault's ceiling in a shower of debris and fire, his ion blaster already tracking targets before he hit the ground. Stormtroopers turned in confusion, trying to process the 30-foot metal warrior that had just entered the engagement. They died before they could adjust their aim. Precise shots from Optimus's weapon eliminating threats with mechanical efficiency. "Commander Prime!" Cassian gasped, shocked relief flooding his features. "How did you—" "Never mind. We need to move now." "Agreed. Stay close." They fought their way toward the hangar, Optimus serving as a living shield, his armor absorbing blaster fire that would have killed his organic companions. The Grand Inquisitor appeared at one point, lightsaber blazing, attempting to block their escape. Optimus didn't slow down, he simply ran through the Force wielder, his mass and momentum overwhelming telekinetic resistance. The Inquisitor was hurled aside, crashing through walls, and by the time he recovered, they were gone. The hangar was a war zone. Rebel forces had secured a landing zone, but Imperial reinforcements were converging fast. TIE fighters screamed overhead, strafing runs forcing everyone into cover. AT-STs advanced in formation, their weapons chewing up the ferrocrete. "There!" Hera pointed to a modified U-wing transport, its engines already hot, Leia visible in the cockpit. "That's our ride!" They sprinted across open ground, exposed, vulnerable. An AT-ST pilot tracked them, finger on the trigger, about to end the escape before it began. Optimus stopped running, turned, extended his hand. His ion blaster, enhanced by kyber crystals, supercharged by the matrix of leadership responding to desperate need, fired a shot that transcended its normal capabilities. The energy bolt hit the AT-ST's fusion core directly, and the walker didn't just explode, it disintegrated, vaporized in a cascade of energy that sent shockwaves across the hangar. "Go!" Optimus roared, providing covering fire as the rebel team boarded the transport. "Get to orbit!" "What about you?" Leia shouted from the cockpit. "I'm too heavy. Your transport can't carry me and achieve escape velocity." Optimus fired again, eliminating another AT-ST. "I'll find another way off this rock." "Optimus?" "That's an order, Princess. Get our people to safety." The U-wing lifted off, engines screaming, blaster bolts sparking off its shields. Optimus watched it climb toward the shield gate, toward freedom, and felt satisfaction warm his spark. They'd made it. Whatever happened to him now, he'd saved them. Then he turned to face the converging Imperial forces. Hundreds of stormtroopers, dozens of vehicles, and somewhere behind them, Darth Vader's presence like a dark star approaching. The hangar's blast doors were sealing, trapping him inside with the Empire's fury. Optimus Prime checked his power reserves. 37%. Enough for maybe 10 minutes of sustained combat before critical failure. 10 minutes. He could work with that. "I am Optimus Prime," he announced, his voice carrying across the hangar through external speakers. "Leader of the Autobots, commander of Rebel Alliance heavy assault operations, bearer of the Matrix of leadership. I have fought for 4 million years against tyranny in all its forms. Today, I stand against it again." His ion blaster charged, energy building to maximum output. The matrix in his chest blazed with light, resonating with the kyber crystals, creating harmonics that made reality itself seem to shimmer. "Come then, Empire. Let me show you what freedom truly means." The Imperial forces attacked, and Optimus Prime met them with the fury of 4 million years of war distilled into pure, righteous defiance. He would fall eventually. The numbers were too overwhelming, his power too limited. But he would fall standing, fighting, unbroken. Because that was what Primes did. Darth Vader entered the hangar through smoke and flame, his crimson lightsaber ignited, his presence in the Force like a suffocating void. Around him, stormtroopers lay scattered, some unconscious, some worse, testimony to Optimus Prime's desperate last stand. The Cybertronian warrior stood at the hangar's center, his armor cracked and smoking, energy reserves critically low, but his optics still burned with unextinguished defiance. "Impressive," Vader said, his mechanical breathing echoing through the devastated space. "You've held this position for 9 minutes against overwhelming force. You've destroyed 15 vehicles, incapacitated over 200 troops, and prevented any pursuit of your escaping allies." He approached slowly, lightsaber held ready. "But your power is failing. I can sense it, your energy signature weakening with each passing moment. Surrender now, and I will ensure your deactivation is painless." "I don't surrender to tyrants," Optimus replied, his voice strained but firm. "Not after 4 million years, not today, not ever." "Then you die." Vader attacked with the speed and precision that made him the Empire's most feared warrior. His lightsaber struck at Optimus's joints, seeking weak points, exploiting damaged armor. The Force enhanced every movement, granted precognition, allowed him to dodge Optimus's counterattacks with supernatural grace. But Optimus Prime had fought Force-sensitive opponents before, had learned their patterns, understood their reliance on mystical foresight. And he had one advantage Vader couldn't match: absolute commitment to his choice, zero hesitation, pure, unwavering purpose. When you removed doubt, precognition became useless. The Force could show Vader what Optimus would do, but it couldn't show him how to stop someone who accepted death as the price of defiance. Optimus's fist connected with Vader's chest, the impact sending the Dark Lord flying across the hangar. The Sith Lord hit a wall with force that would have killed a normal human, but Vader's armor and Force-enhanced durability kept him functional. He rose, and for the first time, something like respect entered his voice. "You fight well for a machine. Better than most Jedi I've killed." "I'm not a machine," Optimus said, advancing despite his failing systems. "I'm alive. I feel. I choose. I love my people and would die for them. Can you say the same, Lord Vader? Or have you become the very thing you claim I am, a tool, serving purposes you no longer question?" The words struck deeper than any physical blow. Vader's lightsaber wavered, his breathing irregular. "You know nothing of my choices." "I know you were someone else once," Optimus interrupted, his voice gentle now despite the combat. "The Matrix showed me when you touched it. Fragments of memory, echoes of a different life. You were a Jedi. You fell. And now you serve an Emperor who uses you as a weapon against everything you once protected." "I chose power," Vader roared, his rage manifesting as force lightning that arced toward Optimus. I chose to save what I loved, even if it meant embracing darkness. The lightning struck Optimus full force, and his systems shrieked warnings as electricity overloaded circuits. But even through the agony, he continued speaking. And did you save them? Did your embrace of darkness protect what you loved? Or did it destroy them, leaving you with nothing but power and the empty justification that it was necessary? Vader's lightning intensified, pouring from his hands with murderous fury. Optimus's armor began to melt, his optics flickering, his spark chamber exposed and vulnerable. But still he stood, refusing to fall, refusing to let Vader hide from the truth. You can kill me, Optimus said, his voice distorting as vocal processors failed. But you can't kill the questions I've awakened. You can't unhear the doubt I've planted. And you can't escape the knowledge that there was another path, one you didn't take. The lightning stopped. Vader stood trembling, his fist still raised, staring at the dying Cybertronian who had somehow reached through decades of carefully constructed justifications and touched the buried wound of Anakin Skywalker's greatest failure. Why? Vader asked, his voice barely audible. Why waste your final moments trying to redeem someone beyond redemption? Because I've seen redemption happen, Optimus replied, his systems shutting down one by one. I've seen Decepticons return to the light, seen enemies become allies, seen the impossible become possible through compassion and second chances. You're not beyond redemption, Vader. You're just afraid to try. For a long moment, silence filled the hangar save for Vader's mechanical breathing. Then the Dark Lord raised his lightsaber for the killing blow. Wait! The voice came from the hangar entrance, and everyone turned to see Emperor Palpatine's holographic form, larger than life, yellow eyes gleaming with malevolent intelligence. Lord Vader, I have use for this Prime. Bring him to Coruscant, alive. My master, he is too dangerous to transport. Did I ask for your opinion? Palpatine's voice cracked like a whip. This being carries technology from beyond our galaxy, knowledge that could prove invaluable to the Empire. You will secure him for transport to my research laboratories. Immediately. Vader bowed, submission ingrained through years of conditioning. As you wish, my master. But as stormtroopers moved forward with specialized containment equipment, as they began the process of restraining Optimus Prime's failing form, Vader looked at the Cybertronian one last time. And behind his mask, Anakin Skywalker's ghost whispered questions that could no longer be silenced. The Rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace at the rendezvous point, battered but intact. Losses had been heavy. 3 frigates destroyed, 2 corvettes crippled, dozens of fighters gone. But they'd succeeded. They'd extracted their people from Scarif. Except one. We should have gone back for him, Leia said, staring at the empty space where Optimus Prime should have been. We left him there to die. We left him there so we could live, Mon Mothma corrected gently, and so his sacrifice wouldn't be wasted. Commander Prime knew what he was doing, Princess. He made a choice we have to honor by surviving, by continuing the fight. Hera appeared in the doorway, her expression grave. We're receiving reports from Rebel intelligence networks. The Empire is transporting a high-value prisoner from Scarif to Coruscant. Heavy security, multiple Star Destroyers escorting. It's him, Leia breathed. They captured him alive. Then there's still a chance, Dodonna said, moving to the tactical display. If he's being transported, we can intercept. With what fleet? Akbar interrupted harshly. We just lost a quarter of our capital ships rescuing him from Scarif. Another engagement like that, and the Alliance ceases to exist. Sometimes. He paused, pain evident in his features. Sometimes we have to accept losses, even ones that hurt this much. The war room fell silent, each officer wrestling with the terrible calculus of rebellion. How many lives was one warrior worth? At what point did rescuing prisoners become suicide? Where was the line between heroism and foolishness? Mon Mothma stood, her decision made. We will not mount another immediate rescue. Our fleet needs to regroup, repair, recover. But we will not abandon Optimus Prime. He gave the rebellion something invaluable: hope, and proof that even the Empire's might can be challenged. She looked around the room. We plan, we prepare, and when the opportunity comes, we strike. Until then, we survive. We fight. We honor his sacrifice by becoming worthy of it. On Coruscant, in the deepest levels of the Imperial Palace, Optimus Prime was transferred to a containment cell designed to hold Force-sensitive prisoners. Suppression fields surrounded him. Kyber-damping technology prevented his power systems from recharging, and armed guards watched his every flicker of movement. But they couldn't suppress the matrix of leadership. That pulsed steadily in his chest, a beacon of hope in darkness, a reminder that some lights could never be fully extinguished. Emperor Palpatine visited personally, his withered form somehow radiating menace despite its frailty. "Optimus Prime," he rasped, yellow eyes studying the prisoner with predatory interest. "You have caused my empire considerable difficulty, destroyed ships, inspired rebellion, challenged my servants with your naive philosophy of freedom." He circled slowly. "But you've also given me a gift, the opportunity to study technology from beyond our reality, to learn secrets that could make the Empire truly eternal." "You'll learn nothing from me," Optimus said, his voice weak but defiant. "I'd rather die than help you enslave more worlds." "Oh, you won't help willingly," Palpatine said, smiling with cruel amusement. "But the dark side has ways of extracting information that transcend mere torture. I will peel back the layers of your consciousness, discover every secret of your construction, learn the location of your home galaxy. And then..." His smile widened. "Perhaps I'll send my empire through this space bridge you mentioned. Imagine it. 2 galaxies under my control. Infinite resources. Eternal domination." "The Autobots will stop you," Optimus said. "Megatron will stop you. Even Decepticons won't tolerate invasion from an outside force. You'll unite my entire galaxy against you." "Then I'll destroy them all," Palpatine replied simply. "I have the Death Star, soon to be operational. I have the Force, bent to my will. I have an empire that spans thousands of systems. What chance does your war-torn galaxy have against my full might?" For the first time since his capture, Optimus Prime smiled, a small, knowing expression that made Palpatine pause. "You assume too much, Emperor. You assume my galaxy is weak because we've been at war for millions of years. But you don't understand what that means. What kind of beings survive 4 million years of conflict? What kind of weapons we've developed? What kind of desperation drives us?" He leaned forward as much as his restraints allowed, his optics burning into Palpatine's yellow eyes. "If you invade my galaxy, you won't face a rebellion hiding in shadows. You'll face Cybertronians, both Autobot and Decepticon, who have turned warfare into an art form older than your species. You'll face technology that makes your Death Star look primitive. You'll face warriors who measure their combat experience in epochs, not years." His smile widened slightly. "And you'll learn that some wars can't be won through fear alone. Some enemies don't break, they endure." For just a moment, something like uncertainty crossed Palpatine's features. Then it vanished, replaced by cold fury. "We shall see. Your defiance will last only until I break your matrix and learn its secrets. Then you'll beg to serve me." "I've never begged in 4 million years," Optimus replied quietly. "I'm not starting now." Palpatine left, his anger palpable, and Optimus was alone with his thoughts and the steady pulse of the Matrix. Somewhere out there, the rebellion continued fighting. Somewhere, his Autobots warred against Megatron's forces, perhaps wondering what happened to their leader. And somewhere, across dimensional barriers and impossible distances, 2 galaxies spun through the void, unaware of each other yet now connected by his presence. Optimus didn't know what would happen next, didn't know if rescue would come, if he'd escape on his own, or if he'd die in this cell, his secrets lost forever. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty: freedom was still worth fighting for, still worth dying for. And as long as his spark burned, as long as the Matrix pulsed in his chest, he would never stop fighting. "Till all are one," he whispered to the darkness, a prayer and a promise. And in the Force, that mysterious energy field he still didn't fully understand. Something stirred, as if reality itself had heard his words and agreed. The war was far from over. Optimus Prime's arrival in the Star Wars galaxy had been an accident, a dimensional rift torn by forces beyond comprehension, hurling a Cybertronian warrior into a conflict he never asked to join. But in the weeks since that fateful crash on Yavin 4, he had become something more than an alien curiosity or captured prize. He had become a symbol. To the rebellion, he represented hope, proof that even the Empire's overwhelming might could be challenged, that warriors from beyond the stars would stand with them against tyranny. His sacrifice on Lothal and Scarif had inspired countless citizens to secretly support the rebel cause, to resist Imperial occupation in small but meaningful ways, to believe that freedom was worth the cost. To the Empire, he represented a threat that transcended military calculations. Emperor Palpatine had spent decades consolidating power, eliminating rivals, crushing dissent through fear and overwhelming force. But Optimus Prime couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be corrupted, couldn't be broken by the tools that had subjugated a galaxy. He was a variable the Emperor couldn't fully control, and that made him dangerous in ways that went beyond his physical capabilities. And to Darth Vader, Optimus Prime represented something far more troubling, a mirror held up to choices made long ago, forcing the Dark Lord to confront questions he'd buried beneath decades of rage and self-justification. The seeds of doubt the Cybertronian had planted couldn't be uprooted, couldn't be destroyed by Force lightning or Imperial doctrine. They would grow, slowly but inexorably, until even the Emperor's most loyal servant would have to face them. In his cell on Coruscant, Optimus Prime waited. The matrix of leadership pulsed steadily, its light undimmed by darkness or despair. He didn't know if rescue would come, if he'd find a way home to Cybertron, or if he'd spend his remaining existence imprisoned by the Empire. But uncertainty had been his constant companion for 4 million years, and he'd learned that hope didn't require guaranteed victory, only the willingness to keep fighting. Somewhere above Coruscant's skyline, hidden among millions of ships in orbital traffic, a modified YT-1300 freighter adjusted its trajectory. In the cockpit, Princess Leia studied schematics of the Imperial Palace's lower levels, planning an extraction that everyone said was impossible. "You know this is insane," Han Solo said, though his hands remained steady on the controls. "Yes," Leia replied simply. "But we don't abandon our people. Not even the metal ones who crash-landed from another galaxy." Chewbacca roared agreement, checking his bowcaster's charge, and the Millennium Falcon disappeared into Coruscant's endless cityscape. The war continued. The Empire tightened its grip, searching for the rebel base, hunting survivors, demonstrating its power through fear. The rebellion scattered, regrouped, planned its next moves with the careful patience of insurgents who understood that revolution was measured in years, not days. And in a cell in the galaxy's heart, Optimus Prime waited, not with resignation, but with quiet determination. Because he had learned, across millions of years and countless battles, that true leadership meant enduring when others couldn't, hoping when hope seemed impossible, standing when standing alone seemed futile. "Till all are one," he whispered, and the Matrix answered with light that no darkness could fully extinguish. The story of Optimus Prime and the Star Wars galaxy was far from over. It had only just begun. And across the stars, in places where tyranny thought itself secure, beings watched and wondered and began to ask the most dangerous question any oppressed people could ask. What if we didn't have to live like this? What if freedom was possible after all? May the Force be with you. More stories await.